Hello and welcome to the Monthly Movie Marathon, a show where monthly we marathon movies because we watch movies in a marathon format monthly, where we marathon movies monthly. Wow. This is our third time trying to start the episode.
Yeah, we're just going to say there is some footage about some very sexual positions.
Yeah, we had a 5-minute diatribe about different sex moves and the names.
Initially, it was going to lead into talking about John Wick.
It started with you saying, I want Keanu to rearrange my guts. And then we just went from there.
Now part of me is like, well, should I have said that?
Hey, if it makes the cut.
Again, this makes up for the fact that we didn't talk about enough on Magic Mike.
Now we're actively overreaching to try and make everyone quench everyone's thirst, so to say.
There you go.
But if this is your first time joining us, hey, nice to meet you. This is a show. I've lost my. Now all I'm thinking about is all the different sex acts we spoke about. This is a show where
we talk about movies in a monthly capacity after marathoning them. Because each month, in the cinemas, at least one film is released.
At least one film per month is getting released in cinemas.
And we decide we're going to talk about that singular film, except for the month of March, where we've already spoken about one.
That is true. This is somewhat a bonus episode for you all.
The irony in that March is kind of like franchise month.
It's a stacked month. We've got,
so we've just had Creed 3.
And
you know what? Let's put it out there. Everybody in the world that went out to see it.
Thank you.
$100 million in its opening weekend.
We are recording this literally Monday after its opening weekend. So 100 million worldwide. It was obviously the last episode we did. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back. Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. You can listen to us talk about Creed 1 and 2. Speaking of Creed 3, loved it.
Great movie.
I've seen it twice now.
You have indeed.
I liked it even more the second time.
There you go.
So it is fantastic. It's a brilliant movie. Michael B. Jordan is more than a competent director.
Very
much
much
In fact, he's
so.
made me excited to see whatever he does next.
Yeah. But yes, because it is a franchise month, the other franchise that we're not talking about is the one that I'm super excited for.
And that would be?
Dungeons
and Dragons and Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah, no. Scream 6.
Scream 6.
Which I have a feeling I will be seeing multiple times.
Because you saw Scream 5, if I'm correct, 6 times at the cinema.
I did.
Which means if you're going in this numerical pattern, you're 7 times.
Yeah.
But early word's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. We did talk about this Scream franchise before Scream 5 came out last year. So if you haven't listened to that episode, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and not on YouTube. Actually, we didn't.
Which is
recording
why
videos
we thought we won't talk about the Scream movie because they were fresh. So we decided, what's another movie coming out in March?
What's another franchise that's dropping a sequel?
And wouldn't you know it?
Who would have thought?
On March 23rd here, 24th in the States, America.
Day and date release, basically.
A little. You know what? We can say this started off as a little film.
It genuinely did.
I don't think people were expecting this to become the global phenomenon that it did. No. I know when I saw this in 2014, that I was not expecting in 2023 to be seeing the 4th iteration of
John Wick.
There we go. That's
with
what I was
John Wick.
for.
Sorry, I was like, is Pete gonna say it? Am I gonna say it?
No, because we finish each other's
John Wick chapter 4s. But yeah, so John Wick chapter 4 is coming out. But I'm the same as you. I actually didn't see John Wick in the cinema. I did not see. I saw
Nicholas LeBarrow.
I know.
Nicola Wheelbarrow. What is going on?
I was working at the video store, so I saw the DVD. I saw the Blu-ray. Sorry, I should say. And I was immediately upset that I didn't see it in the cinema. Immediately
Why
upset.
did you not see it in the cinema?
I wasn't
too young.
I was 5 years old in 2013. No, I was going to the movies, but not lots. Like I was the video store guy. So I was going home and watching movies, and I was watching a lot of films that I hadn't seen at that point.
Yeah,
I also don't think I had a car when I first left school. So I was
Never
like,
stopped me.
no, that's true. That's very true.
Not an excuse.
I'm just coming up with pitiful excuses. However, since then, have rectified that because I saw John Wick 2. I rectified that by seeing John Wick 2 3 times at the cinemas. John Wick 3 I saw twice at the cinemas.
Very nice. So going off that, you'll see John Wick 4 once.
Once at the cinemas, and we'll see where the sequels go. If there are sequels after this. So I'm very excited. I was very excited about John Wick Chapter 4 because after watching the first movie, and I'm pretty sure you're the same, not only do we expect this to become a juggernaut franchise, but the level of world building in this movie is insane. And the fact that they topped it, they introduced this fun little underground in John Wick Chapter 2, expanded on it on a global level on John Wick Chapter 3. It's like, where is this going to go in John Wick Chapter 4? And I'm very excited and I'm very curious. We did touch on this in the last episode. The runtime is the thing I'm more concerned about.
Yeah.
Clocking in at 2 hours 49.
That's so many minutes. That's 169
minutes. Shout out to the 69 people who liked my Cocaine Bear review on Letterboxd.
That was nice.
And then someone liked it and made it 70 and then sent me, they was like, I just made it 70. I was like,
you ruined it, you dipshit. It's like when it was on Rotten Tomatoes.
But also thanks for the support.
And it was like 100%. And everyone was like, stop the count. And then it started going in. And then it got to 69%. They were like, stop the count.
The fucking
they were like,
count.
we want this to be 69%.
So yeah, I love this franchise. I'm a big fan of it. I am very excited for John Wick Chapter 4. How about you, Mr. Peter Gray of Rotten Tomatoes certified fame?
Which, let's just say, you might be there soon. Nick has applied.
I have applied.
Applied to be a Rotten Tomatoes.
And this is only the second time I've ever applied. The first time I did, I was like way too inexperienced. And I was like, I could do it. Then I was like, no, let's hone the craft first.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Fingers and toes and everything else crossed for you.
Everything crossable is crossed.
So I saw John Wick. By this point I was reviewing, and I got invited to the screening.
Nice.
And it was like, I was excited. Like, it was a movie that looked cool, but I had no expectations. I was like, oh, it's Keanu Reeves. And I'm not going to shit on Keanu Reeves.
Oh, God.
But he has always, sometimes his movie choices are questionable.
Yeah.
47 Ronin, for example.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Actually,
and I heard that it was like, it was just an action movie, and I was like, and I knew that it had to do with a dog, and I was like, hey, I'm all for a dog in an action movie.
Everyone loves dogs in action movies.
Then you see it and you just go, oh,
holy
fuck,
shit!
You decide to kill the cutest fucking beagle in the world.
I know, right?
Anyway,
brutally.
We'll get onto that.
Brutally.
But so I saw it. Gave it a positive review.
How positive were you talking?
I gave it 3.5 stars.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
And then obviously went into the sequel and was like, super excited for the sequel.
Yeah.
And then went to the third one and was like, oh, I'm fucking amped for this third one.
Yeah.
And I remember the third one ending and me so briefly being like, oh, shit.
Yeah, right.
And then going, oh,
shit.
And then it seemed like it didn't take very long for them to go, John Wick 4 is coming.
Yes.
But obviously because of the little fucking thing called the global fucking pandemic. The film kind of went in this stage of like,
it was a limbo-y
like,
sort of thing.
Are they actually going to film it?
Yeah.
When are they going to film it? And they filmed it throughout 2021.
Yeah.
So the original release date was obviously never going to fucking happen.
No. Well, originally, and I think we touched on it briefly in the last episode, it was supposed to open on the same day as Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah.
Which would have been, Resurrections? The fourth one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Too many R titles. I keep forgetting.
Reloaded, Revolutions, and Resurrections. Yeah.
It was supposed to open day and date with that, which would have been interesting. Two massive Keanu franchises opening on the same day, but obviously pushed back a little bit. It seems like they potentially added a little bit more to it as well.
Now that we know that this running time, and I think...
And how big the scale of what they're trying to do is.
And I also think, like, we're no longer in that phase where we're releasing things in cinemas and in streaming at the same time, which is what Matrix Resurrections was technically the last film to do that with part of that HBO Max deal. So, and I guess we're seeing now, like Creed 3, for example, is showing us that, like, we can stop saying, "Oh, the cinemas are back," because no, they've been back for a while.
It's been back for a while, and it's still strong.
But we're now seeing that people are turning up.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's like, so it seems like Creed 3 has exceeded expectations.
It seems like Scream
6 is on track to be the biggest opening of the Scream film.
Do you think, because it's opening day and date predominantly, and like in a lot of the big markets around the world, do you think that it's a potentially $100 million worldwide movie?
I think so.
Yeah, wow.
Possibly.
I guess because the biggest defining factor is a PG-13 Creed 3 to an R Scream, but there's still, I mean, what if it makes like 30 million in the US? Like
at this rate, it's predicted to make 37 million, which is the largest. Nice. But I also think,
for whistling in
but we also saw Creed was originally on track for like 20 to 25.
And it's like 50 something.
And made 50. So it's possible that when those opening nights come in, but it seems to be Creed 3, Scream 6. I wouldn't be surprised if John Wick 4 ends up being like opening the best of the films and becomes just
a lot of people are super keen for it.
But and we can stop saying like, oh, but it's 2 hours 49 minutes. Avatar. It doesn't matter how long your fucking movie is.
No,
it really doesn't.
People will come out and see it especially if it's an established franchise. Yeah. And I think that progression of opening weekends is sort of akin to how the films have evolved over time as well, because John Wick was a success.
Yes.
People really enjoyed it. But once the notoriety came of like, oh, this is a movie that was directed by stuntmen, that the action is incredibly visceral and like everything's in camera with real people, with Keanu doing the stunts, this introduction of like gun fu, everyone's like, what the fuck is this thing? This is like insanity incarnate. And then the fact that they just kept capitalizing on that and pushing, and it seems like they had a really good writer in Derek Klokstad.
Oh yeah.
Kolstad. Kolstad, sorry. Who obviously had a lot of ideas for expanding the world, whereas like you could, like in the hands of another writer who only has an idea for John Wick as a singular movie, can kind of like fuck up the sequel where he's like, no, I've got these really cool ideas. And then in retrospect, and especially rewatching them again, you look at things in John Wick and you're like, there's little foundations here of like, there's a bigger world at play than just the guy whose dog got killed.
Like it's clear that making John Wick, they didn't have like, this is the first of a trilogy. It wasn't made for that. Totally. But they obviously still wanted to create enough of a world to be like, hey, this is interesting. You know, like we know that he's known amongst like the underworld, and it's like the cops are just like, yeah, we're going to leave you alone, John, like all that sort of stuff. Jimmy.
Bless
John.
Jimmy. Love Jimmy.
But then because of the success of John Wick, when it came to 2 and 3, they were like, 2 and 3 were pretty much like a package deal.
Yeah, totally.
So that's why they knew in John Wick 2 that they could expand to the point of
like there is still more.
Which is why also when John Wick 2 ends, you're like, I know that there needs to be a third.
The third one. Yeah. Totally.
And then I guess the way that John Wick 3 ends, you're like, I need to know that there's a fourth.
And like I said, they were super quick with getting that out. And they've announced that they did announce that there was going to be a 4 and 5, and a 5 is still on the cards technically at the moment.
5 is still on the cards, but we definitely know we're getting a spin-off in terms with Ballerina, which is briefly brought up in John Wick 3.
John Wick 3, yep.
And Keanu Reeves has been confirmed to
reprise his role,
as well as
Houston,
and Ian McShane
back, and I'm assuming Lance Reddick then in that case, with Ana de Armas in the lead role. So that's actually filming at the moment. I believe. Len Wiseman directing of Underworld fame. Interesting. Great visual director. Glad he's not writing the script. I'll just say that. In fairness, maybe I haven't seen it since. Maybe I was too young to see it. Didn't hate his Total Recall.
I'm the same.
Okay, I'll rewatch it because I remember not hating it.
I'm like, I get that we're hard on it probably because we can't help but relate it to the Arnie one. Totally. If you take that away, I'm like, it's a really good little action movie.
Okay. I might rewatch that.
Farrell's
when
good.
we have a spare moment, I might rewatch it. Speaking of spare moments before we really dive into John Wick, let's have a bit of time for us.
Okay, Nick.
It's been a big couple of weeks. Big Cocaine Bear interviews that dropped out.
Big Cocaine Bear interviews.
Which was fantastic and phenomenal. I know we touched on it briefly on the Creed stuff, but we were super excited to do that. We both recently, for our respective outlets, Nova Stream Network, the AU Review, like, subscribe, follow, spoke with Ernie Hudson for Champions, which...
it's weird. We say this about so many people about being the nicest guy.
I know, sweet soul. Such a sweet soul.
Yeah, it
made me tear up at the end of our interview.
Like a genuinely just really, really good guy.
Just a good guy. And had all I think it's very rare for sometimes when actors of like his caliber in the sense of like he's one of the original Ghostbusters. He has had a very prolific career. And we had 15 minutes with him. And that seems like all the time in the world.
Yeah.
So you get to really have a conversation with him, which was fantastic, which was super exciting. What else?
We can say, because by the time this episode drops,
by the time this comes out, we
can say Champions.
Fucking great.
Great little movie.
Really enjoyed it.
Really funny.
Really heartwarming, really charming, super funny. My biggest thing, and I know that a lot of people are usually hesitant when watching movies like this, I would say, as someone who actually has a lot of familial experience with people with intellectual disabilities, as in my family have a long history of working with these with people with intellectual disabilities, it celebrates the abilities of them. The joke is never about their disability. And it's super funny. It's super charming. The running joke about hard-ons had me hissing myself laughing.
And that'll obviously make sense when you go.
That's it. You take that out of context.
Yeah, it
makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's really
Although
funny
at the same time, they'll be like, of course they're talking about hard-ons. Why wouldn't they be?
Why wouldn't they be? It's a Bobby Farrelly film. Yeah. Woody Harrelson really good in it. Ernie Hudson really good in it. Caitlin Olsen, hilarious.
Oh, she's really great.
So it's a beautiful film. Yeah. So really enjoyed Champions. What else is coming out? Well, you can probably talk about your other one, because this doesn't come out till the 17th.
Oh, yes.
18th of March.
So by the time this episode comes out, I would have interviews for, Shazam. For one thing. Shazam, where I spoke to director David F. Sandberg, who was
exciting.
Really, really.
He seems like a cool guy.
He's really cool. He was a good guy. And I had a lot of fun with that movie. And
as of recording, I have not seen it yet, so I have no comments.
And a little film coming out towards the end of the month called Dungeons and Dragons.
Honor
Amongst Thieves. And
which I'm actually kind of excited for.
And I'll just say that the people I interviewed for that film, it was loose,
chaotic
in
fun.
In the best way possible.
Chaotic fun. So
good times.
Will that interview be out by the time this drops on the 17th? Hello to everyone on the 17th of March.
Yes. Okay. It will be.
Just look out for it.
Just look out for it. It's a good time. And I think that's all we
can talk about.
This is all. We've got things in the pipeline.
That's all we can talk about.
That's all we can talk about right now.
But as always, thank you all so much for going out and reading our reviews. And reading our interviews. I know you have had a lot of success with the articles doing well.
I have indeed.
So we appreciate all of you.
Yeah.
And we also appreciate your support for this show. Watching us on the YouTubes. We hope it hasn't disappointed as of yet. More visual gags to come, I guess. I thought we could have done suits, but it's fucking hot.
It's really fucking hot.
I'm glad we're not doing it.
I just decided I'll just look as masculine as possible by shaving my head.
That's fair. I mean, do I look masculine in my metro haircut and?
I mean, no, they can't see the fact that I'm
basically not wearing pants on.
But
I mean, leave a comment if you think I look masculine or not. But let's jump into.
Or leave a comment if you actually want Nick to take his pants off.
We'll do a poll. We'll do a poll
Me
on
too.
Spotify.
Hey, all right. Let's talk about John Wick.
Let's talk about John Wick.
Speaking of polls.
Okay. I was like, I'm trying to put that segue together. Couldn't do it. John Wick. Not John Wick Chapter 1, but just John Wick.
Well, just John Wick, because they weren't too cocky.
They weren't.
You know, some movies like
Part 1, June Part 1,
June Part
Chapter
1, and you're like, oh, all right.
When you got that big studio.
But say it, gamble.
Always.
There was never a guarantee that it was actually going to be successful.
No, and that's why it kind of played off well as a singular movie.
Because we've seen this happen with films, and I can't think of any.
I can't think of any that have done a chapter 1 or a part 1 thing that had never had the part 2 made.
I mean, one thing.
There definitely would be.
I mean, I can look at the Divergent series.
Yeah, well, didn't that last one basically come straight?
We got 3 films, and they promised us a 4th, and the 4th just never happened.
Oh, I always assumed the 4th just came out to no fanfare.
They didn't make the 4th movie because the 3rd one didn't do well.
Yikes. I've only seen the first one.
The 3rd one...
Yeah. Is the best one?
No, but it needs the 4th movie because it literally is like...
It's like a Mockingjay part 1 sort of
so it just kind of ends and you're like, there's so much unanswered.
Interesting. I've only seen the first
I just like but you know what? I like watching Divergent just as Divergent and being like, I don't need to see anything further because I feel like it does a good enough job.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like it's kind of open-ended, which I don't mind.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I can think of right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, John Wick, we're glad you got the sequels, but you did start as just a little action film that could. 2014.
Jonathan.
An ex-hitman comes out of retirement to track down the gangsters that killed his dog and took his car. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to fucking know.
I love the fact that the whole reason that these films exist and the whole reason that we get Keanu Reeves beating the living shit out of people is because someone killed his fucking dog.
The funny thing is, it comes up so much in the films.
They joke about it. They're just like, you killed his fucking dog. And then there's a joke in the 3rd movie where she's like, he shot my dog, and he's like, I get it.
Keanu's comedic delivery in these films is brilliant because John Wick is a man of very few words. But it works.
And it helps that it's Keanu Reeves.
Absolutely,
We like Keanu Reeves, love Keanu Reeves.
Love Keanu.
But he does have limited range as an actor.
I mean, I won't deny that.
Yeah, and it's not me shit talking him, but there's
I would say that he does a lot of acting in John Wick because seeing him in real life, and yes, like a man of few words in both aspects of John Wick, but I'd believe him as John Wick.
Oh,
I absolutely believe him.
And the thing that I really like is that, because Keanu Reeves is he's a tall guy.
Yeah.
But I like that he's not, it's not like you've put The Rock or Momoa or Vin Diesel in this. He's not someone he's not
a towering physical presence.
And he's not bulging biceps or anything.
Totally.
But he's but the way that he carries himself and obviously the way that he fights people, it's I like that you still believe that even though this guy that isn't
he's not superhero. He's not superhero.
But you look at him and just go, I don't want to.
He can fuck people up. Yeah. And like I said, a lot of that comes through the choreography, which feels very real at points. You know what I mean? The combat is, from a person who doesn't do a lot of combat, looks very real. You know what I mean?
What I loved about it is that it's very rare. I don't think I caught it maybe once or twice where you can't tell that this isn't him.
Yes, totally.
Performing.
Yeah.
There are a few
big
certain
stunts,
editing cuts that you're okay, this has been maybe sped up a little bit, or they've spliced something in.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time when they're fighting, you're that looks like Keanu Reeves. That looks like XYZ actor he's fighting.
These stunt people, and that's the biggest part of it, right? Is that it is former stuntmen.
I mean, so many of the actors in this film are former
stuntmen, right? But the directors, Chad Stahelski, and then the ghost credit of David Leitch, who is a producer on this film.
Chad Stahelski, I'm just going to get thirsty. Fuck, he's hot.
He's a bit of a daddy.
He's a good-looking guy. He, I could be wrong. I believe he was the stunt double for Brandon Lee in The Crow.
Ah, okay. No, that makes sense.
I believe he was. Right. But he
was also the stunt double for Keanu in The Matrix.
Yeah. That's just me being completely thirsty. He is a fucking good daddy. He's a good looking dude.
Interesting. And he's a fighter too.
He's a zaddy.
Zaddy. Okay.
Zaddy.
What's a zaddy?
Zaddy is just a hot, okay. There's daddy, but zaddy is kind of just
you transcend. It's the next level.
Yeah.
Copy.
Yeah. You transcend. Transcend daddydom
into zaddydom.
Yeah.
Right. I'm now educated.
Yeah.
In the world of daddies and zaddies.
We'll get you there.
But they're directors, right? They're former stuntmen who are directors.
Stop treating them like they're anything else other than directors.
They're just directors, Pete, okay?
Yeah.
They're not objects for your perversions.
No.
But, I mean, when they they're flaunting the way they do on screen.
If their photo is up on IMDb, they're at their fair game.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
No, they're fair game in terms of like thirsting over them. Because he's an attractive guy. I'm just not.
He's not even on the screen in this film. That's like
no, he's not. That's how hot he is.
How hot he is.
You like look at him and just go, I need to know who this guy is. Oh, that's the dude that directs John Wick. All right.
But as we've stated,
I'll let you get back to your actual criticism.
He's a director.
He is a director.
He's a director of this film, and I mean that's obviously that passion and care for his job of stunt manning.
Oh, there are so many things I could say.
Comes through on the camera, and it's all these wide shots of combat happening in front of you. Like I said, there's very minimal cuts and slices.
It's so well,
and the way the camera moves around the action
is so well framed. It's like the way that he's
so exciting.
That's it. Like
energetic.
It's like this is action directed by someone who loves action.
Totally.
Who is like, I'm sick of like. There's none of this like shaky cam stuff. There's no like editing to
trick photography
to basically be like, oh, we know that this isn't the actor doing it. Like the way that it's very. There's a lot of kind of almost like he's just put the camera there and he's just gone, just fight.
Yeah,
and I'll move around you guys.
I'll make it as organic as possible.
It's you can see why that it feels weird to sort of say like. Basically any movie beyond like 2010, it feels weird. I don't know if this is just me. It feels weird to sort of refer to them as like classics of cinema. Like it feels like any movie that's like 2000 forward. It's like,
totally,
that's a classic. I'm like, we're allowed to call John Wick we're allowed to call them classics of the action genre. They are so well made. They're so well crafted.
They're also the blueprint of a lot of action movies now too. Like,
but you can see like the Asian cinema influences in the way that this is like
huge amount.
And it's like you see movies like Old Boy, and you're like, why is that allowed to be considered a classic?
Right.
And a movie like John Wick
isn't.
Is it? Because it's 2014. It doesn't matter if a movie comes out.
It's a classic.
If a movie comes out and you're like, this to me is changing the way that I look at a certain genre, then to me
that's a classic.
I think that's I think John Wick is definitely a classic.
I think so too, and that's why. But the thing is at least like in John Wick 1, the action is so fucking incredible. That the house raid scene, phenomenal. Phenomenal.
I was actually going to ask you about like each film. Do you have
what's a favorite moment? Yeah. For John Wick. I would say I think that house raid is my favorite scene.
Which one?
The first one. So the house raid when
the dogs died.
After the dogs died and they send everyone not Joseph. Who's the dad? Who's played by
Michael Nyquist.
Michael Nyquist sends his men to go and kill
to
him.
me that's
the first big action
and
scene.
like I don't know what it was. There was just one of the shots when it's like him walking in the rain and the wall's just red. I was just like, cool. That's such a sexy shot.
It is a sexy movie, and it like visually, especially neon lights, a lot of rain, a lot of water, a lot of reflections. Like it looks fucking cool.
You can kind of see how, even though like Stahelski was the director, but Leach was like the ghost director. You can see
where Leach
you can see where like especially like Atomic Blonde,
Bullet Train,
but you can see like Atomic Blonde the way that neon colors in that. You can sort of see like this is definitely where the
director of John Wick. Totally. Critically on Rotten Tomatoes, John Wick 86%, audience 81%. It may shock you to learn. This is the lowest rated of the John Wick films critically and audience-wise on Rotten Tomatoes. I would disagree in my personal rankings.
In terms of
I think this is potentially my second favorite of the three. Which I would score it higher is what I'm saying.
Right.
When we get to the other ones, you'll find out what I would rate a little bit lower.
I feel like I know which one you're going to rate lower.
What would you guess now be?
I feel like you'd rate 2 lower.
Interesting. We'll find out when we get to number 2.
Oh, all right.
Interesting. You could be right. You absolutely could be right, but you could be wrong.
I think I'm right.
You could be, but you might not be. The movie just opens with a car slowly crashing. This man gets out, who we then learn is John Wick, but it's Keanu. He's been shot in the gut, and he's watching a video of a woman who's like, she kisses her on a beach. He's like, "Come back, John. Come. Let's go, John."
And
That's
I was
flexing. I'm sorry.
I was very surprised. Like when I first saw it and I saw that Bridget Moynihan was credited.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh,
wow, okay.
I like Bridget Moynihan."
Yeah.
Like she doesn't seem to be doing much these
You like the
days.
love interest of
but
the
she
movie.
had like there was a period where Bridget Moynihan was kind of in like fucking everything. And when she popped up on screen, I was like, immediately I was like, "Oh, okay. I feel like she's not making this movie out alive."
Yeah.
I was very surprised at how little
You're getting shot on light. Apologies for anyone
at
watching.
how little she was in it.
Yeah, totally.
But I also appreciate the fact that they didn't bash you over the head with like exposition.
No.
You very much got how much they loved each other and how fucking heartbreaking it was when
God.
So there's just that one shot of them walking and her just collapsing on the ground. And that's all you need to know.
In the hospital bed.
That's all you need to know in terms of that she obviously got sick to some. Do they ever actually say what it is?
No, I think the illusion is cancer.
Yeah.
But like I said, that opening little montage, which is barely even a montage.
Yeah.
Is all you need. Like it's like the opening scene of Up.
Yeah. And then
is what it is.
and then you sort of get obviously the way that they talk about it, like,
yeah.
Okay, she was enough for him to
leave this unknown world of hitmen and totally.
Which is pretty much that's all you need to know. And then you get the dog being sent to him and her sort of just saying like
there's a card there
and her saying like, "I don't want you to be alone. I hope you'll be okay.
Yeah.
This will be something that'll like help you in that process."
Yes, yeah. So like and remind you of
like,
me and stuff.
Yeah, and then picks up just the cutest fucking dog.
It's a little beagle. It's a little puppy beagle.
Oh my God.
It's so fucking cute.
So fucking
the way it
cute.
nuzzles in, it wants to sleep on the bed, and John Wick's like,
"Yeah, come on."
And then it was like,
I will say,
okay.
I
love that
was
dog. So cute.
Like, as someone who owns a dog,
Yes.
given that this dog was like a puppy,
Yeah.
and it like is basically like nuzzling him to say like, "Let me outside."
Yeah.
Puppies, it would just, I think it would just
shit.
It would just go on.
It would just shit.
So,
But you get a funny, it's the joke of the film. Like, he's like, "What do you want?" And he's like,
you just want to shit outside.
"You need to do a poo." Like, that's cool.
Yeah. But that was like, that's the most unrealistic thing about this film.
In John Wick, the puppy would just poop.
To be fair, another thing that I appreciate is the fact that when Keanu Reeves takes a hit, he's like, this isn't a movie where the hero is like miraculously void of getting hurt.
But he gets to that point, like you said, he's not a superhero.
No, he
in these
gets
movies.
like
the shit beaten out of him.
But because of his like line of work, he has people and pockets where he's like, I need to be able to get morphine, or I need to get stitched up, or I need to whatever. So you
need to go see the doc.
Like it's the world building,
the foundations of it
established in this is like incredible, and it's great that and it's when you watch John Wick 2, how this is like they're like. It's in John Wick 3 when you realize he says something about what you've been doing for the last few days. You realize these 3 movies are literally over the course of like a few days.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like you keep forgetting because they were so many, like 10 years apart, really.
Yeah,
like
ultimately,
John Wick
almost
to John
now.
Wick 4, almost. But these films,
we'll see where John Wick 4 picks up from.
2 to 3 years apart from each film.
Totally,
but they're all set
within a couple of days of each other. At least within a week. At least within a week.
So it makes the brutality probably like, fuck, you just haven't had a chance.
Well, even the way he moves around, he's got his limp. He's always
very
getting stabbed. He's always like doing these ones, walking down the street. Like he is getting the shit kicked out of him, but he just keeps getting up, and he keeps because he's just like, they killed my fucking dog. They stole my car. Because in fairness, that's where it all starts. So we find out the wife is dead. The dog gets delivered after the wife's funeral, in which we meet Willem Dafoe, who talks to John like they are associates of some kind. So you get an idea that Willem Dafoe is in on this world somehow.
And not the villain.
And not the villain.
Which is like a nice surprise for Willem
Not the
Dafoe.
villain, but later in the film, but at least the movie does a good job of making you realize, like, there's no real villains with these characters, but they're all like the actual hitmen, right?
Right.
But like they're all just doing a job.
That's like whoever's. They're like, they just do it for the money.
It's like being a critic, right? It's like being a reviewer.
Yeah, because we get paid to say good things.
Yeah, well,
I mean, just say we don't at all.
I mean, I would.
I'd love to get paid lots of money to say this movie's good. We don't.
I'd get paid. I'd love it.
So that's just a tangent. If you ever see a critic saying something good about a movie, I'm going to say 99%, they haven't been fucking paid for it.
They haven't been paid for it. No, not at all. So we meet Willem Dafoe. And John Wick's got this lovely car. I don't know what kind of car it is, but it's fucking cool.
Yeah. I can't think.
And he's doing donuts and skids around an airfield to like feel again. You know, you get that. He's letting out that aggression. He's letting out because he does a bit of screaming and yelling.
He's got a lot of anger.
And then he's filling it up with petrol and a loud music bass pumping group of young hoodlums pulls up to the petrol station led by Theon Greyjoy, Alfie Allen.
Alfie Allen, who I referred to as if you
Lily Allen's brother.
If you ordered Harry Styles on Wish.
Oh, poor Alfie. I see it now. You said it.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me feel bad. But no, totally.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
Pulls up Russian gangsters and he's like, I like your car.
They're such cunts.
Oh, they are. They're fucking dreadful people.
And the thing is, like,
but he's like a princey proper, like, my daddy is a gangster.
Like one of those guys who's lived behind the fact that his dad's he's never had anything happen to him because his dad's a gangster.
No one said no to
him.
him.
All the guys around him are probably like, you're a little shit, but we also know that nothing can happen
we're also
to you.
Paid to be your friend. Yeah. And he goes to John Wick. Once his car, he's like, John Wick's like, it's not for sale. And speaks in Russian to him, calls him a bitch or something.
He says like everyone
has their price.
Every bitch has its price or something.
And then he responds in Russian, not this bitch, which fantastic.
But that essentially is almost what sets Alfie Allen off because he's just like
fuck. This motherfucker.
So
what?
And it's like there's no reason for him to go after him other than the fact that he just wants this guy's car and doesn't like that he's been like essentially
emasculated, right? Yeah.
So he decides naturally, gets his goons together, break into the house, kill the dog.
Oh my god! So they beat John Wick up first, and they beat him to the head.
Like he's unprepared for that.
Yeah,
so he gets beaten with a baseball bat,
and the dog's yapping.
So they say, Quiet the dog,
and they stamp on the fucking dog. Like, it's off camera, but it's enough.
It's off camera, but you hear the yelp.
The yelp of the dog is enough for anyone to be like, and I know, I remember hearing stories of people like, they just noped out, they left the cinema because they're like, I'm not watching.
Well, we didn't have anybody leave the cinema, but there was definitely like, the induced groan of like, you know.
But as Keanu Reeves has said when he was promoting the film, and Chad Stahelski, they were like, but this is a revenge movie for that killing.
Yeah.
Because obviously they beat John Wick within an inch of his life. He gets up the next morning.
That shot is fucking heartbreaking. The fact that they've pushed the dog then right up. So when he wakes up, he literally is looking at his dead dog.
And he pats the dead dog. It's heartbreaking. And next morning he wakes up. They put a baseball bat through the windshield of his other car, slash the tires. And so he gets on a bus. he gets on a fucking bus, goes to...
All I thought about on the bus, I was like, nobody?
Oh, true. Yeah. Well, they were like, maybe that was a scene in the script. Yeah. They were like, let's save it for another one of these.
For another movie.
And he rocks up to a garage that is run by John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo, our buddy John
our friend who go read our Violent Night interviews. He was a fantastic interview.
How good is plugging other shit?
I love it. Great. Well, hey, we've spoken to Johnny Legs, so we can... that's his nickname. That's his, Johnny Legs.
Yo, Johnny Legs!
And he was fantastic. So rock up, and the scene, it's fantastic because the scene is intercut with Theon Greyjoy, which is not his name. It's Joseph in the film. Brings this car... John Leguizamo is like, his name's Aurelio, goes, where'd you get that car? He's like, we fucking stole it, man. And they're like, he's like, do you know who you stole it from? He's like, no. He's like, that's John Wick's car. And he says it in a way where you as the audience immediately go, oh, okay, they shouldn't have fucked with John Wick. Like,
and then the fact that like I think John Leguizamo like slaps.
He slaps him. He slaps him. Joseph.
So then we hear that the dad's like, I heard that you slapped my son. And he's like, yeah, I did. And he's like, why? And he's like, because he stole John Wick's car. And then the dad is just like, oh.
So, and that's another running joke throughout the films, because it happens in the second and the third one too, where at least someone at one point goes,
I kept
waiting for it.
No, I kept like, I don't know if this is what I don't know. I just kept waiting for someone to go, oh, and then someone else just go, yeah, fucking, oh, like no one seems
Maybe number four.
Maybe number four.
Yeah. And then all those scenes are sort of intercutting. John Wick rocks up to the garage, to Aurelio's garage, and
to be like, I want my car.
I want my car back. And he's like, I know he has it, and you're not going to, like, this isn't going to be an easy thing to get back. And Aurelio puts John Wick in touch with Joseph's father, played by Michael Nyquist, who is a big-time Russian gangster in New York.
Like someone who you definitely don't want to fuck with.
Like, you don't want to fuck with him.
Yeah.
And Michael Nyquist's character, which I apologize, I forgot his name, but basically is like, offers John Wick, he's like, look, my son did a dumb fucking thing.
Yeah.
You know, what can we do to make this right? And John Wick's basically like,
I'm going to kill your son.
I'm going to kill your son. Yeah. Like, he killed my dog.
Yeah.
And he stole my car. And he's like, I don't want you to do that. And John Wick's like, too fucking bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. So he's telling his story because Joseph rocks up. His dad gives him the shot of vodka, punches him in the stomach. So he throws up the vodka and he's like, do you know whose fucking car that was?
Like it's
John fucking Wick. Like the way they just talk about, he's like this mythological
and
creature.
how, well, they call him Baba Yaga because which is boogeyman. And I like...
He sings that song. Oh, it's so creepy.
But I like that when, even though he's spoken to John Wick and been like, I don't want you to kill my son. You don't have to do this. This is not the way to go. And then when he's talking to his son, he's like, do you know whose fucking car you stole?
Like,
and how the dad is like, I don't want you to kill my son. But then to the son, he's just like, I can't fucking help you.
No. He's like the only way I can help you is like, I have to kill John Wick.
I don't want you to die. But at the same time, you also deserve to die for being so fucking stupid.
Yeah, he's one of those classic gangster dads where he's like, I have a dumb fuck for a son.
Yeah.
But he's my son.
Yeah.
And I have to
get help him out of this.
Literally the only way to save him is to kill John Wick.
Even though I'm like, everyone's clearly tried to kill John Wick and it just hasn't succeeded.
I love that he has his not sidekick, but his like right-hand man who is like telling stories about John Wick.
And he keeps wanting to leave and he's like,
stay. You're going to watch. And he's like, fuck, man. And he's like, John Wick killed 3 men in a bar with a pencil. Which is the start of
a fucking pencil.
It's so fucking fun. And then,
which is then great because we do get a pencil death.
We do get a pencil death. But it's another one of those common things where it's like, obviously the stories and the myths about John Wick are so grand in this world.
Like they're almost bigger than John Wick himself.
Exactly.
But then the great thing is, as the films go on and you see what John Wick does to people, then you realize, oh, maybe every story we're hearing is true.
It's true, right?
Like when we see him actually kill someone with a pencil in the second film, you're like, there it is.
That makes sense.
And it's fucking brutal too.
And it's after that scene where he makes the phone call to John and stuff, and when John is not accepting of the terms of the agreement, we also find out that the reason John Wick is out of that world is because he pulled off an impossible task. We don't get told what that impossible task is, but it involved this Russian gangster. It was an impossible task and it granted him his freedom and no one was going to touch him again. But so it's like, there's another aspect of like, they've invited this demon back into this world, basically.
They're like,
we have to deal with this.
He did this job that he was guaranteed if he pulled it off,
he could be
he had
the
like
impossible task.
And he did it.
Fucking cool.
So it's like,
everyone's like, fuck.
So we needed to leave him alone. And again, because you're a dumb fuck, you've decided to do it. And now they're all like, we're all going to get what we deserve at this point.
Exactly.
You know?
And then John Wick goes down to his basement while John Wick's down in his basement, he takes a sledgehammer and rips apart his concrete in his basement to pull out guns, these gold tokens, which we don't know too much about, but obviously with this whole underworld thing, we know that they're very, it's like the currency of the underground world, of the hitmen. He has a shower. He's got all these fucking tattoos on his back and stuff. Like he's a hardened fucking dude. And Michael Nyquist's character asks, we need people. And it's like, how many, who do you want this crew? It's like, how many do we have?
Everybody.
I love how he's like, he's like, how many people do we have?
Yeah.
Like we just fucking need everyone.
It doesn't matter if there's like 40 guys and we need 38. No, we need
40.
Yeah.
And that leads to my favorite scene of the film, which is the house raid. So these like special ops looking dudes, body armored up, lasers on their guns, storm into John Wick's house. But of course, John Wick's ready.
Who's there?
He's got his pistol and he just starts fucking dudes up. It's headshot. It's shooting people in the knees. They fall down so he can shoot them in the head. I love the two shots that really stick out to me are the one where there's a guy on one side of the wall, he's on the other side of the wall with someone else, shoots that guy in the head and then shoots like bang, bang, bang through the wall.
Yeah.
And then the other one is when I don't know if it's jujitsu, but just jujitsu's a dude onto the bench and then snaps his neck. It's fucking cool
that
shit.
That really hurts because it's just like...
Because you can hear
and
it
it's just like
feel it.
And like the force of his punch literally cracks his head's dude like... backwards.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it's such a fun scene, and it's one of those scenes where you go like you were saying earlier, like how it's a classic action film. Like that's the blueprint of what a lot of action is now. It's just these visceral, energetic camera shots of close-up action that leads to an unbroken shot of more close-up action. Stuntmen doing all these insane stunts, actors doing these insane stunts. It's a great fucking scene.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite scene in the film?
Yes.
It's hard not to be, right?
It's a pretty great fucking
It's a great scene.
Yeah.
John Wick fucks them all up. Policeman Jimmy rocks up, sees all these dead bodies, and just goes, "You working again, John?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Afraid so." Yeah. And he's like,
all right.
See you around." And just like it's one of those things where you're like, "Oh, everyone's in on this."
And then like the world building sort of starts when John Wick rings up and he's like, "I'd like to make a reservation."
Yes.
And and like at first you're just like, What? And then he's like, "Who's it for?" And he's like, 12? Does he say 12?
Yeah, it says do a reservation for 12. Yeah,
these 3 or 4 dudes rock up with, big plastic sheets and they wrap up all the bodies and take
cleaning service,
right?
Wrap
up the bodies, take them away, and then John gives them
the gold coins.
The tokens. So then you sort of just go, okay,
right.
This is clearly like currency that certain people know about. And it's like, it's great when obviously as the films go on,
you find out
and you see just how many people in public are part of this. But obviously there are certain businesses that are still open to the general public.
Yes.
So it's kind of like showing the coin makes them go, okay, you're part of this
part of it. Yeah. So I love that as well. Then we find out that after the raid has not gone the way our Russian gangster wanted it to, he puts a $2 million contract out on John Wick, but specifically asks Willem Dafoe's character if he wants the contract, who accepts. And he says, yep, okay, I'll do it.
Because $2 million is $2 million.
$2 million for a hitman.
Yeah.
John Wick rocks up to the Continental. This hotel that is operating as a hotel, like normally, but there's all these little nuances and things that are said that kind of make you go, okay, no, there's something else going on here. It's where we meet Lance Reddick's character, Sharon. Yes.
Do you get the impression that it's regular people are allowed to stay there?
Yeah.
Or do you sort of get the impression that even if a regular person walked up, they would say, sorry, we're booked?
Interesting. I've never actually thought about that. Initial reaction is I think normal people just wouldn't go there. Like, I feel like that is a strictly hitman, assassins sort of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, if you didn't know that world existed and you went to the hotel, I was under the impression that
it's just a normal hotel.
That it's like it's a normal hotel, but they don't let
normal people stay there.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. Yeah,
like if a normal person came in, they would say, "Oh, sorry, we're booked out."
We're booked out
because obviously, even though there's the rule that once you're in the Continental,
no killing, no business conducted on Continental
obviously,
grounds.
we know that certain things happen in the hotel, certain fights, but
shit happens.
It's one of those things where if you can't really explain that to a regular
person, totally. So you're not going to tell them, like, enjoy your stay. Also, please don't kill anyone while you're
here. I feel that it's like, it's a business that's operating as a hotel, but they make sure that the only people that
who are staying there are part of this underworld. Which, funny you bring that up, the rule about not killing on continental grounds, because then Michael Nyquist's character goes, we're doubling the bounty if anyone does kill him on continental grounds, because he finds out he's there. But we also meet Lance Reddick's character, Sharon, who is the concierge there. And he's just he's one of those cool characters. You know what I mean? Like, super, like he's just a cool, calm, collected, stylish guy. I think I could be friends with him.
Yeah.
He seems like a guy you could just really get along with.
Adrian Palicki.
They obviously goes down to the Gold Club, where another assassin, Adriana Palicki, who is friends with John, but is also aware of this bounty that's out for him. She's like, I might as well cash in on my
and
shit.
She seems like, because even though Willem Dafoe accepts it,
yes. It's still an open contract. He was just offered it first.
But I also feel like Willem Dafoe never wants to go through with it. Even though,
I agree.
Because even though there's the shot where like John Wick is sleeping and Willem Dafoe has the sniper rifle on and shoots, there's no way that Willem Dafoe was going to miss that.
No.
And he shoots the pillow so that way John Wick wakes up, and it's as he wakes up, Adrian Palicki's character is in the room ready to beat the shit out of him. So I feel like, which is obviously what comes back to bite Willem Dafoe in the ass when Michael Nyquist is like, you fucked up and didn't kill him.
Yes.
So I feel like Willem Dafoe accepted it as a way to sort of like almost buy some time and
be on the inside of
but Adrian Palicki's character, to me, she seems like the most aggressive and the most one that I'm like, I want to fucking kill John Wick.
Oh, totally. Yeah, she's like the most unhinged out of the people who come after him.
Yeah.
And she's brilliant as it is in the role as well. We also in the club meet Winston. Ian McShane's Winston. Jonathan. I fucking love him. Yeah. He's so he is the perfect actor for this role.
We spoke about this before we were recording about camp factor and how some actors might lean into that a little bit more than they should. But Ian McShane toes that line beautifully where he's in a serious action film, but he's also in this ridiculous over-the-top action film. And he's sort of
heightened world.
He knows where he lies in that. And he's having a great
He's having so much fun. And he's kind of like...
And he's like, you don't know... You're like, do I like him or not? You're not entirely sure.
You're not aware of his loyalty to John Wick, at least. Just yet.
Yeah.
But as obviously as the film goes on, you find out more and more that he does have a soft spot for Jonathan Wick.
Yeah.
And does go to great lengths to help him. But he's a man running the hotel. The Continental is his place, and he's very proud of it. And
as he should be.
As he should be, because it's a fucking cool place. So the bounty's out on John Wick. And he gets word that Joseph, our Russian gangster's son, is at a nightclub that is bounced, I guess you could say, or being watched over by Kevin Nash.
Yes! When Kevin Nash rocked up, I was like, oh, I just saw you.
We just magic marked you.
As a stripper. And it's weird because Kevin Nash does nothing in this movie.
No, it's clearly like a little... such a bit role.
But you sort of get, when you have Kevin Nash, you think, oh, I'm going to get like a Kevin Nash, like...
Totally,
he's just like, how about you just take...
Francis.
He's like, how about you just take the night off? And he's just like...
But it's another one of those great conversations where he's like, as Francis, he's like, you're working again, John.
And he's obviously just like, yeah, I think I am, because he's like, I'm probably going to be collateral damage in all of this.
He's like,
because I'm essentially
bouncing. See what I mean? I don't know.
He's overseeing the bouncer duties
of the
nightclub, which is run by Michael Nyquist, which means he's essentially aligned himself with the guy that John Wick wants to kill. So he's probably like, you know what? John's doing me a solid. I'm gonna bounce. Like literally.
Heyo.
Hey, and he fucks off, and you literally never see him.
You never see him again.
But you know what?
Not in the franchise.
But you know what?
At all.
I like that in the John Wick world. Kevin Nash is
out
alive.
there.
Francis is just like, I'm just had a.
Francis is like, thank.
Yeah, he's
after
like,
seeing everything that happens after, he's like, thank fuck.
Yeah, given what happens probably in like I guess the three
or 4 days that follow.
He's probably just like, yeah, that was a good call.
I'm glad that we got out of there. Because that leads to my second favorite scene of the film,
the
nightclub shootout, which definitely shows more of the gunplay. So like there's a lot of gunplay in that house raid, but there's a lot of hand-to-hand combat.
Whereas this is like
John Wick's in a room of dancing people, just headshot. Like
which a part of me was like,
is that good?
But I'm like, is the music that loud that no one would hear?
But there's people who are in close, because the second movie does it too, where people close proximity run away and scream. But not enough people to be like. But it's kind of cool though. I'm like,
I mean, and that also brings in sort of like, I guess, like the camp factor of it. That,
totally.
Like, especially the scene with Common in the second film.
Yes, I know. Yeah, totally. That scene.
The nightclub bathhouse scene.
True. Because Joseph's running around with a little towel on him the whole time.
Introduces briefly who I kind of wish was in the second or third film, but obviously they didn't know at that stage. But I think it's Daniel Burhand.
Okay.
And you see this guy in an action movie and you know you're going to get some fucking good stunts. So if you want, you know what you should do? Type his name in and you'll see his face and you'll see the movies that he's been in and you'll get it. So Daniel B-E-R.
Or B-E-R.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Atomic Blonde was the first one to pop up. Oh God, yeah. Okay,
so he's in like he does stunts for like
he's
fucking everything.
He was in Matrix. He's in Parker. He's in Nobody. He's in Birds of Prey.
He's
Hobbs and Shaw.
So in Birds of Prey, he's the guy that is sitting on the.
He's the chauffeur.
And Margot Robbie like jumps on his legs and breaks them. That's him.
Okay. Which is funny because he's also called Bone Breaker in Logan.
There you go. Brothers, John Wick. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Parker, Hunger Games.
Yeah, totally.
Dude's in everything. And he pops up in this scene.
Bloodsport 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And 4.
I'm pretty sure he was I'm pretty sure he was like Van Damme's stunt double.
Right. Yeah, okay. So because he pops up and has a hectic fight.
And that's it. Like he's someone who like, I know that this is all you.
Yeah.
And obviously when they didn't know that they were going to get a John Wick 2 or 3, so he doesn't last in this movie.
He doesn't last long at all.
But he's someone.
But he's the one who stabs John Wick with the champagne bottle, right?
But he's someone when I see him in action movies, I'm like, oh, there's either going to be a really fucking great scene with him in it. Because like in Nobody, he's part of like the bus scene.
Yeah.
Which is arguably like the best
one
scene
of the coolest action movie scenes. In the last
that was just
10
my
years.
thing where he pops up in that. And I when I was rewatching it, I was like, there he is. And then I'm like, I was like, this scene's about to get a whole lot fucking better.
Well, it's insane.
It's
because
a pretty good fucking scene.
It's a fucking great scene, but it ends with John Wick getting stabbed with a broken champagne bottle. So you're like, holy shit. Like, first of all, that's a big stab.
And then you're just like, so this is a movie where he actually gets...
Well, and then he gets thrown off the balcony onto the floor.
Like, yes, we've seen him get beaten up before the dog dies, but beyond that, he's kind of been in charge of the house raid, he's in charge of that.
Totally, yeah.
Whereas this scene, for most of it, he's in charge of it, and then he gets stabbed, and then you're like, oh shit, like this is a movie where that happens.
Like that, there's a possibility of there's danger, there's threat to John Wick.
I guess once you get to 2 and 3, you're like, okay, I know that Keanu Reeves is going to survive.
Yes, totally, but still, but it's still a thing where you go like, oh shit, my hero just got fucking. Yeah, I don't see that enough.
Yeah, he got stabbed with a fucking shard of glass. So
so he goes and pays a visit to the doctor.
Yes,
who he pays with coins as well to the special gold tokens to get stitched up. And then
like instantly.
Like,
I've been stabbed. I know that I need to keep killing people.
All right, we're gonna morphine you up.
Yep.
And then that leads to the scene where when he's resting, he gets missed by Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Adriana Palicki Perkins tries to murder him.
Yeah.
She is caught trying to murder him
on
continental grounds, which
Which Lance Reddick is like, this isn't going to happen here.
No.
And then I love that, like, after Keanu Reeves has, like, basically he's beaten up Adrian Palicki.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's weird, like, obviously in a movie where it's mostly men fighting men.
Totally, yeah.
There are a few women.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess maybe to offset the fact that we don't want to see women getting, because I mean, women get shot.
Yes.
But not a lot of women get like
brutally
up.
beaten. Yeah.
So I guess the way to almost offset that is that he puts the sheet around her head.
Yes.
And punches her in the
her,
face.
yeah,
Because it's almost just like, if I don't have to look at you.
It's,
Because it's like, it's weird. Like he seems like someone who's like, I respect.
I won't
but
hurt women and children sort of thing.
If you're coming after me,
I'm going to have to do some shit.
But I like that in that scene after he's beaten her up, that his neighbor walks out and he's just like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, John, you're working again. And he's like, do you want to make some money and babysit someone for me? And he's like, yeah okay.
Sure. So they handcuff her up. John Wick goes off to a church, does a shootout in a fucking church because, of course, it's like a John Woo movie.
Because the church is part of, but the church is part of it as well.
The whole, all those priests getting killed was very satisfying.
And then I love that there's one person who prays through the whole thing. Yeah. So maybe she's like some, I don't know,
she's just
Russian woman who's probably just like, oh, this thing again.
And he burns up some of that fucking mafia cash too, so really hit him where it hurts.
Yeah.
But while that's happening, and Perkins is getting watched over, and she dislocates her thumbs to get out of the handcuffs and shoots the babysitter.
We will say the babysitter is like a grown ass man.
Oh, he's a
like,
more than
it's
capable
like
of
some,
like
17-year-old girl. Like,
no,
shut
totally.
the babysitter.
The babysitter.
No, he's like a 40-year-old fucking jacked dude.
Dude who, and then Perkins overpowers him, pillow over the head, bang, shoots him. But then leads to John Wick getting captured. By Mr. Russian Gangster Man, by Michael Nyquist. And
hey, yo, Mr. Russian Gangster Man.
We get the cool line in the movie. We get the fucking line in the movie where he goes, everyone keeps asking me if I'm back. And I'm starting to think, yeah, I'm back. Which is fucking great. It's like, so good.
It's one of those moments like when you're watching in the cinema that you're just like,
I was like, fuck yeah, John Wick.
Fuck yeah, he's back.
It's so fucking good. And
it's like the most, like, I think it's like the most words that Keanu Reeves has in like one continuous sentence.
100%. His like monologue is literally 3 lines.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm thinking I'm back.
It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
And he gets out, Dafoe starts shooting, so we know Willem Dafoe's now on his side.
Yeah.
Gives Wick a chance to escape, and he finds Vigo, his Joseph's friend, the one who's been hanging out with him the whole time.
Yeah.
And within an instant gives up the location of Joseph's safe house. Like, he's just like, I'm not fucking with this dude.
Yeah, he's just like, this kid's a little shit.
He's like, fuck this guy. I'm paid to like him. Here's the safe house location in which Wick infiltrates. There's a small chase scene which leads outside, and Wick gets his revenge and just pops him in the head. Yeah. Joseph, dead.
Which then obviously means Michael Nyquist is like, well, you've killed my son, so
it's like,
now I have to kill you.
He's like, it's like, I wasn't really trying. Like, I wasn't really trying like, before.
Well, you got away with everything before, and I was like, well, okay.
But I'm really going to kill you now, Mr. John. John checks out of the Continental.
And that is actually a line from the film.
That's a real, that's like,
I'm going to kill you, Johnny. Man, I want Tommy.
I can't wait.
Don't
give me
to do a take on John Wick, and that's what he says.
Yeah, man, I'm thinking I'm back. Don't kill my dog, man. That's an awful line.
That sounded like. Have you watched Pedro Pascal?
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like. Oh my god!
You kill my dog.
I can't believe you did that. Why would you kill my dog? Oh my god!
Checks out of the Continental. And then at this point, Willem Dafoe has then been captured and tortured.
That really hurt me.
But and it's because he's like, you betrayed like me. But you kind of think it was like, did he?
He's like, you betrayed me.
I can't believe I done that.
Why would you do that? Why would you betray me, Willow?
I don't have to go under on a palette to show you. It just is how it is.
I have to show you on the face. Oh my god.
And she blasts Willem Dafoe away. Sayonara. See you later.
But is justice when
Yes.
that he's like, basically, I think it's Lance Reddick who essentially
because her Continental,
because he was like you still fucked up on Continental ground.
because the rule is obviously like no killing, but it's like no business is conducted, and because she tried to kill John Wick on Continental,
but it's also like it's a hotel run by bad people, but it's also like, but at the same time, it's like it's still a hotel.
It's still a hotel
where we want you to like. It's almost like
enjoy
when you're out there shooting and everything.
Totally,
we want you to come back to a hotel and just
relax, enjoy the bar, enjoy the lovely duck fat we find out they serve.
Oh, have you ever had duck fat potatoes?
I haven't. But
duck fat potatoes.
Delicious.
It's
delicious.
Oh my god, that's so good.
It's so delicious. I can't wait to try it, Santania. So she gets her membership to the Continental revoked for committing business on company grounds.
And then she gets fucking shot
that's such a cool shot when she's led into that.
So she's led into the. It's like this big.
It's like a big gazebo,
but
like a cement gazebo.
And she's just like standing there in the middle, and then like
four dudes come out like an
each thing,
formation,
and like they all just shoot her at the same time from
she's
different
straight
angle,
down.
And she's just down.
So fucking fun. Then we get a chase scene in which John Wick is now catching up to Michael Nyquist because he's like, I'm going to kill Michael Nyquist now. Insanely fun car chase where Wick's just knocking cars off like steep fucking cement drops and everyone's dying.
But it's like you look at that car chase sequence and you think it's like
it's only gets better.
But you're like, that car chase sequence is nothing compared to what he does in like 2 and 3.
Oh, 100%. But
like you just like he gets on a fucking horse.
I know, but it's still so fun in this.
Oh, it's so great.
And he's drifting around and he drifts into the side of another car and is like shooting through his window and stuff. What? It's fucking mental.
Chad Stahelski.
Yes.
Directing a Fast and Furious movie.
I wouldn't hate it.
Fuck
Bring him on for Fast X Part 2, which is probably just going to be called Fast 11, to be honest. Absolutely bring him on for one of those. I mean, we saw what David Leitch could do with Hobbs and Shaw, which was more of an action movie than a Fast and Furious movie. Sure,
but hey.
Could be fun.
I'm so excited for John Wick Chapter 2, Part 2.
John Wick 2, John 2 Wick?
Part 3.
Where are we up to?
2 John, 2 Wick.
It sounds like a sequel to Dear John.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Dear John Wick.
Dear John. Stop it. John Wick finally gets his revenge. He kills Michael Nyquist. They have like a battle in the fucking rain and it's hectic and he stabs him in the neck, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. That's how he kills him, leaves him in the rain. John Wick's been injured by this point. We get back to the beginning of the film.
Well, yeah, we get back to the final shot where
the final shot is the first shot.
His car and gets out of the car, and he's just like
Bridget Moynihan's on his phone, going, "Let's go home, John."
And he's like, "Yes, let's go home." And
directed by Chad Stahelski.
He goes home.
And
you think, I'm glad we got a 2 and 3.
Yes,
but if that was it, he's 100%. That whole thing has been encapsulated. And
totally,
he's killed. Like you almost assume
that is a sasatisfying ending to a single action film.
It's
absolutely.
Oh, it's no sounds.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry. Trailer's playing. Oh wow.
Yeah, that's why I was like,
but that piece does literally not last for long because
no, it doesn't.
He goes to pick up his car. Well, I mean, like the movie, like I love the neon city opening shots of John Wick Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. Chapter 2. By the way, after returning to the criminal underworld to repay a debt, John Wick discovers that a large bounty has been put on his life. So that sort of like happens like in the second act of the movie. Like that is the synopsis for the second act, right?
Yeah.
But where this movie starts, critically rated 89%, audience 85. I agree because this is my favorite John Wick film.
Oh.
This is my favorite one. I gave John Wick number 1 5 stars. I gave this 5 stars, and I gave number 3 4.5. And I will say why when we get to number 3. I love this film.
Nick.
I will say why, okay? And because everyone is obviously waiting to hear.
I just assumed that you would maybe deduct half a star or a star because of a certain person in this.
No. This certain person did not ruin my complete experience of this film. But so 89% critics, 85 audience, so it's obviously higher than number 1. Makes sense as well. I remember the hype coming into this film.
Yeah, this was big.
It was big.
This was before, yeah. You weren't a critic at this.
No, I wasn't. No. Number 3 was the first one that I didn't go to the critic screening of because they had a public paid screening beforehand, and I was like, I'll just go to that.
Were you invited to the?
No, I just started talking to this rep. I just started talking to people.
Yeah, because it was 2019 when
we met.
When
fate collided us together. I love the neon look of the city, but like this movie just gets straight into it. A motorbike is sliding down a street. Someone gets up, hit by a car, and you're like, that's probably John Wick.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they intercut this car chase action scene with Peter Stormare, who I just fucking love as an actor, who reveals himself as the uncle to Joseph, Alfie Allen's character.
So he's like, my dipshit nephew and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
And because he has a car in his possession, and they're like, whose car is that? John Wick's car. Oh.
Boy, you fucks.
He's like, he killed 3 men with a fucking pencil. His delivery of that line is brilliant. So he's freaking out knowing John Wick is coming for his car. And he's telling the stories of the Baba Yaga. I love the line where he's like, all the stories you have heard of John Wick have been at best watered down. Like that is a cool line about the mythology of John Wick.
Yeah.
While that's all happening, John Wick is infiltrating this garage. He does his introduction kill is a guy smoking and he hits the cigarette into the guy's mouth.
Yeah.
Punches him up and then punches him in the stomach and the cigarette comes out. Like it's just the level of inventiveness that has been shown in the kills of 2 and 3 are just mental. But he fucks his way through this. He fucks his way.
Not literally.
No, but he fucks people up his way through this garage, gets to Peter Stormare's office for the car, and they share a drink. And you can I love that you can be like, John Wick. Like, there's nothing I can do here. Like, I'm done. I'm going to enjoy this alcohol.
Basically, like, I know how many people were between me and you getting here. So if the fact that you've killed all those people and you're now here, it's like I might as well have a last drink and
just have it with you.
Because I know that I'm not getting out of this alive.
And because John Wick gets his car, but it gets absolutely destroyed as he tries to leave. Because he tries to actually sneakily leave with the car.
And you're like, that's never going to work.
Never happens. Crashes into shit, gets crashed into. I love the shot of the car jumping out like sideways and like skidding out. It's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Backs into a dude. Pardon me, snaps his legs. Pardon me, got the hiccups now. I'm so excited. It's all fucked.
You're excited. You should feel his nipples.
Oh, fuck. That one threw me off because I thought of another joke I heard last night. John Wick gets his car back, but it's fucked. It's fucking destroyed. So he called up his friends Aurelio, Johnny Leguizamo.
And a tiny little cameo.
Tiny little cameo in this film to pick up the car. And he's like, when can you get it fixed? And he's like, Christmas 2030.
And it made me think, it's only going to be 7 more years until that joke works.
I know, right? Because I was just thinking, like, do we do like an honorary John Wick 2 screening
in
December 2030
and be like, and then when that line happens, all you do is insert shots of Peter Griffin going, there it is,
there it is. It's the name of the movie.
Or Leonardo DiCaprio going like that. Yeah. And then you just end the movie there. And
just end the movie. Leaves. And that's our little prelude into the film. It's like the opening act, right?
Yeah.
Then John Wick gets a visitor. Santonio. Who right from the get-go, you're kind of like, I don't like this guy. There's just something about his prim and properness and his assholery. It's his demeanor. You know what I mean?
I was like, it's because he's like Italian and
you know what? I'm not going to say just that.
Well, thanks for letting me say it.
I know what
there's
a pride to him.
He comes across like it's almost like
he's a man in power,
and it's kind of like Joseph in the first film.
It absolutely is.
Santonio is actually like done stuff.
Yes, yeah, I know what you mean.
Like he feels like he's
a bit more of a player in the game.
There's a cockiness to him because he's like, I've gotten everything I want, but at the same time, he's like, but I've I know how to sort of take care of myself.
And he seems like a player in the game.
But he's also like a little bit of a bitch because he's also just like, because he's like, I'm essentially coming to John Wick to carry out something that I could never personally do because if I do it,
it looks bad.
Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah, it looks bad because what does he want him to do? You want him to kill his sister so that you can take
her seat at the high table,
which is something that then starts to come into play a lot
more. So, yeah, because that's when we first hear about it because Santonio kind of sits John down and he places this marker to him. So this is the first time we see these markers. And we know that these markers then have a blood oath because their blood is within this marker. And San Antonio talks about how he did something on the night of John Wick's impossible task that helped John Wick complete the task. Like, if San Antonio didn't do what he did that night,
John Wick probably
wouldn't have completed the task. We know San Antonio has...
Do you think we'll ever find out what this
I think we will.
is?
No, I absolutely think we will. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
It'll be in whatever the last John Wick movie is. Like, they'll save it for that. And I'm excited to see what it is. Maybe there'll be a whole movie dedicated to it. The Impossible Task. John Wick, The Impossible Task. That'd be fucking cool. Lionsgate gave us a call. And so he has this implication of like he literally has a you owe me because he's like, I'll do this thing for you on the night, but I need your marker. Because it's John Wick's marker that he gave to Santonio to be like, you can cash this in at any time for anything. Cashes it in, says, I want you to kill my sister so I can take her seat at the high table. John Wick refuses it, which is a big no-no because John Wick don't give a fuck about the rules. He's like, I'm John motherfucking Wick. Says no, and Santonio's like, that's disappointing. I wish you didn't do that. Walks out of the house, goes, you have a lovely home, John. We see Ruby Rose in the background. Best acting she does in the film. Santonio grabs some grenades.
Oh, savage though.
Shit. San Antonio grabs grenade launchers out of the car. Pop, pop, pop. Blows up John Wick's house.
And look, I'll just say his house is actually really fucking cool.
Oh, it's a lovely
beautiful house.
Architectural beauty.
Oh, I was going to say it's like architecture porn.
Oh, that's who. Yes, yeah.
Like it's the kind of house that you're just like, oh, this would cost a good mint, but I'd love to live here.
We know he got the cash.
But unfortunately, they blow that shit up.
Literally, like, blow it up to the point like John Wick is thrown out of a window by the force of an explosion. There's fire everywhere. Literally burns the house to the ground. We didn't bring this up, but John Wick gets another dog at the end of the first movie, remember? Because he walks away with the dog. And then the dog...
he does.
John Wick gets a dog.
For some reason, I thought it was the end of the second film.
No, it's in this movie because... No, does he get a dog at the beginning of this film? He gets a dog.
I thought it was the...
No, it's the end of... Because he walks away with the dog at the end of the first movie.
One?
I think it's the end of the first one, or it might be the beginning. Who cares? John Wick gets another dog.
We literally only watch these films like not...
recently.
Well, you know what? It's because when you watch 1, 2, and 3 in like succession, they all just blend. But he does. He gets another dog. This beautiful fucking like Staffy.
I thought it was a Staffy.
Yeah. That he essentially rescues from like a pound or something.
That's right. Yes.
And it becomes his little sidekick for most of the movie. No, it definitely it's
the first one.
It's the end of the first one because the end of the second one, the dog runs away with him.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. It is the first one.
So
he gets the dog.
But
the dog survives the explosion. Thank fuck, because we don't want to sit through a second dog death.
I do remember thinking that, being like, fuck, I can't. But then the dog comes up to him.
But that's almost like the reveal of that moment too, when the dog walks up and everyone's just like,
oh, thank God. Fuck. Because you're like, the beagle's super fucking cute. Yeah. This dog is super fucking cute. Its face is like, it's got the most different expression, and its eyes, it's adorable.
So he blows his house to shit. Jimmy the cop
comes back and is like,
gas leak? John Wick's like,
yeah.
Gas leak. No, I'll be seeing you, John. Again, are you working again?
Yeah.
Fucking love it. Jimmy is the GOAT. So John Wick has nowhere to stay. Where does he go?
I think he's going to go to the Continental.
The Continental. Who would have thought?
With his dog, which I love that they give this little like friendship between
him and Lance Reddick.
Yeah,
it's so
and he's like, dog, because he's like,
because he
says like dogs aren't allowed.
He's like,
they're not allowed on. Yeah, they're not allowed on
continental property.
On continental ground. He's like, but I would be willing to.
It's like Lancey.
Yeah,
love you, Lancey.
So the dog
fucking ledge.
And then that means that the dog is kind of like kept out of trouble for the whole movie.
Yes,
which makes sense because John Wick goes on a little rampage.
He's got some shit to do in this movie.
Some shiznit to do.
But it's also Winston. We're reintroduced to Winston. We meet Winston again, and John Wick. He tells John Wick, he's like, there are 2 rules here: no business on the Continental grounds, or no blood spilled on Continental grounds, and no refusing markers. Like Winston has heard about this ordeal, and he's like, you can't do that, John. Like you gave your marker to him. So bad, he is cashing it in. Pardon me.
Oh my God, why would you turn it down?
Because if you break the rules, you get excommunicado.
Excommunicado.
I wish I fucking love it. And I say that in Spanish because that's how exotic and not allowed it is. Fired up reference. I don't know how that joke holds up today.
Yeah, because he's prohibitado.
Prohibitado.
Yeah, look, tangent. Even though it's a movie that's incredibly problematic, when you look at it through 2023 eyes, Fired Up.
Fucking hilarious.
Great
movie. Funny movie.
Like,
My favorite line in Fired Up is when they try the Fountain of Troy and he drop that chick on her head and he's like, look at her face. You broke it almost in half. Where am I going to get another one of those this late in the day? It's my favorite fucking joke of the movie.
It's stupid as shit.
Stupid as fuck.
Funny.
Great lines.
Funny. I don't know why you always just look like such a dick
to me. Nice Crocs. What are they, a 7? Oh, no, he's like, nice thongs. What are they, a 7? 10.5, Papo. 11 in Crocs. Great fucking movie.
Carly Horse.
Doctor, aren't you pre-med? Why put off the inevitable? So fucking. Oh my God. We could do a Fired Up podcast.
The movies you forgot.
I never forgot Fired Up.
No, but I think everybody else did.
Never forget.
It's like that in Hot Rod.
Oh man,
Speaking of Ian McShane.
Right? India, there we go. There's our connection.
Anyway,
back on
John Wick chapter 2.
So John
can't do anything.
Can't do anything on
or he's
excommunicado.
Which the way that Ian McShane says excommunicado is like it's a word that I'm like, it's a bit of a stupid sounding word.
It's a stupid sound, but he has a roll of the tongue.
And he has a way of saying it where you just go, oh, I believe this. I
fucking love Ian McShane.
This no longer sounds like it's a stupid
word, right?
Because it's like you could just say you're excommunicated.
Right. But when we find out what happens when someone's excommunicado and the control room that it goes to, this makes complete sense. And because they use so much Latin stuff throughout anyway, so it's like, it makes sense. Lance Reddick is looking after the dog. And John Wick goes to a museum where we meet Ruby Rose. We find out she's deaf. She signed.
No, she's just mute.
I thought she was just mute. Apologies, she's mute.
I'm pretty sure she's just mute.
I'm mixing Creed and no excuses. She's mute.
No excuses at all.
No excuses. Oh. No digging myself out of this hole. Oh no. It helps my case that she's awful in the movie.
I was like, if it makes you feel any better, you can dig yourself back into
I just got into this hole.
Out of one hole into another. Deep.
I will say this. The fact that Ruby Rose doesn't talk
and she's
doesn't help the fact that she is pretty bad in this movie.
And it's like, it's more just... It's just that I was like, that's the longest fucking. That's gonna sound so on. Like I was like, don't stop it if you're on the podcast.
Your machine is not broken.
It's because she just overdoes the facial expressions because it's almost just like, well, if I can't physically, I can't
believable
talk, no, it's either. Like I'm like, and I get that your character is like meant to be sort of quite intimidating, but. It's not the way that it comes across.
No, it doesn't come across as intimidating.
And it's just, I think it's just because she overdoes the eyes and the facial expressions.
It's like an interesting like theater type to like it's overacting so much.
And like even though so much of John Wick is like over the top, the performances are actually pretty grounded.
Good. Yeah.
Totally. So she's coming at it a bit too
much,
bit too campy.
Yeah. And she is for me the worst part in a perfect movie. I would say that. But she frisks John Wick down in the museum. They have a back and forth dialogue, and that's right. She grabs his ass, which I was like, okay. I was like, whatever.
It's a little bit predatory.
Yeah, I was like, and it's like it didn't add anything to the scene either.
And it's like, and I think it would be different if
a man was doing it to.
Well, if a man did it to a woman, it would probably everyone would be fucking up in arms about it.
Yeah.
But I also think it's because there's been no
context provided.
Like it'd be different if there was like scenes where there was maybe flirtation, or if her character seemed quite like overtly sexual.
Yeah.
But it's because it
doesn't. It seems like a dominance thing as well.
And it doesn't come across
as that. Yeah. Like we're trying, it adds, like, it's like trying to add to that intimidation factor.
And it's all it does is just like, all you've done is just like grab Keanu Reeves. And like, I can't blame you.
but even he's just like,
it just doesn't work in the way that I think they hope
they wanted it to.
Yeah.
But at this museum, Santonio's there, and Santonio actually reveals his plan that he wants his sister killed for the spot at the high table. She's in Rome, and Wick very, very reluctantly agrees to do it because of the marker rule, because Winston spoke some sense into him, even though there's a great little back and forth before he accepts, where Santonio's like, you're thinking right now how to do it. To kill me, would you grab her pen, stab me, how quick you could get to me before my men shoot you? I was like... So he understands that John is doing this reluctantly.
Yeah.
But John Wick goes globetrotting. We go to Rome.
We get global.
And the world, in a physical and like world building-ish way, expands even more, because we find out there's suit tailors putting body armor into suits, and we have an armorer who talks about his guns like they're a dessert or like a food menu. Peter Serafinowicz.
Who
I love.
He's so great. Another tangent. Spy,
he's brilliant.
So fucking funny in Spy.
He's funny. Love him in Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Love him in Guardians of the Galaxy.
He's a really great character actor.
Character actor.
And he's having little fun in his scene of he's basically giving him the all the weapons,
and he's talking to like their food, a menu, and it's really fun.
What would you like for the main course?
And I love it. And John Wick's like, how about dessert? And he pulls out all these fucking knives
like,
and stuff. He loves it.
Yeah.
And it's a montage thing, like he's getting his suit made, and we get the iconic all black suit getting made,
which is like lined with like body
Kevlar
armor, which then makes the scenes where Keanu Reeves is actually getting shot
make more sense,
because he gets shot a lot.
Yes.
But it doesn't kill him because his suit is covered in armor. Yeah.
And it's intercut with moments where he's talking with the Italian Continental's version of Winston, who is just as fun as Winston. My favorite line from him is, I have to ask, are you here for the Pope? And John's like, no. And he's like, here's our best room at this hotel. I fucking love it. But then we get this like fun montage set up. Then we go to the party, the concert,
which is
like in these catacombs.
It's like catacombs, and it's like the music's fucking weird, but
it's
love
like
it. Though. Everyone's just like, you can tell everyone's like probably like off their fucking.
It's a rave. It's 100% just a fucking catacomb rave,
and it's like, and it leads to the introduction of
Common, who is the bodyguard of
Gianna, and I love that, like, you know, when it comes to Gianna and John Wick, like how she's like,
oh, that's sane.
That way where she's just like, I'm aware why you're here.
Yes, yeah,
and like
totally,
that my brother is basically like, my brother's a coward and this is what he's done. And like, she's like, at that point, she's like accepted that she's going to die. Like she's just like, the only reason that I'm in a room with John Wick is because I'm going to die. And, you know, she like is talking to him, and then she's like, well, if I'm going to die, it's going to be on
my terms.
So
it's a really intimate scene.
Yeah, like it's almost like
not sexual, it's like slightly sensual.
But I was also just like, prior to him being with Bridget Moynihan, I was like, did they have something? Yeah, because totally, it seems she's like, she obviously knows John Wick, but she does seem to talk to him in a way of like, I've been with you before.
And well, I mean, she obviously very openly undresses herself.
And dresses herself in front of him.
Gets into this massive stone bath.
Which I'm just like, I want that fucking tub.
Fucking dreams.
And like the room is just like, this open room with like candles everywhere.
Just,
I mean, you look at it and just be like incredibly impractical.
Oh God, but
like you're like, who the fuck lit all those candles?
But she's on the high table. It's
So
just the life she want to live. Doesn't matter.
So she stands in the bathtub completely naked and just like slits her wrists. Does it in the very like
casual
what's happening
way, yeah.
Then lies in the bathtub,
lets the blood drain out.
Which that image
is awesome.
Is one of the like most beautiful, like even though it's horrific,
yes,
it's just the way that this like
she's like this sort of like she's got like her legs crossed,
almost like she's crucified.
Jesus. Yeah, right. Yeah,
and like this water, like because the water is blue because of the color of the stone, and then it's just this red.
This dark red,
and it's almost like it almost comes to a love heart. Yeah, almost.
But then she also grabs hold of John Wick's hand as she passes too.
So that sort of gave me also like, okay, there's something that's been there. And she dies. So then he's
brutally,
but then he's also like, well,
I need to actually
do the job. Finish. So he shoots her as she's already dead.
Yes, which is very respectable.
He leaves, crosses paths with Common, and Common's pretty much just like, well, if you're here.
Yeah, are you working tonight,
and
John?
he's like, yeah, I am. And he's like, that's unfortunate. Because then Common's basically like, okay, shit, I know that you've killed Gianna, who is obviously under Common's watch.
Yep.
Then it turns into...
Well, it's like a high noon standoff initially. Yeah. And then they just both pull out guns and bang, 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 bang. They just shoot the shit out of each other. But obviously they're both wearing their body armor suits.
And I love that when it comes to like, there's that obviously that scene where he's shooting everybody else that's around him. But I love that when it comes to him in Common, and it's just like the hand. It's just like the hand combat, and that scene is like almost like one of my favorites because it's just
the first one they do in
it's just so
right at the end of the shootout
because it's just so like. Primal.
It's primal. It's just two dudes beating each other up.
They've because it's almost just like using a gun is like it's kind of cowardly.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Even though like
they respect each other.
That's it. There's this respect of like, well, you know what? I actually want to kill you with my bare hands.
Totally. Yeah,
so I love that it turns into this sort of like fight with both of them.
Yes, it's incredible. But the shootout that happens before that,
it's insane.
Which is basically John Wick firstly shooting his way out of a crowd again during this and the song that plays the techno, the John Wick mode.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God, I love that song. That was on my workout mix like back in the day. I fucking loved it. Shoots his way through the crowd. Shoots his way through the catacombs. So it's obviously, and the way it's lit with the torches and the smoke everywhere. But obviously the menu that was crafted for him of weaponry, he is left in specific locations. He
just like goes through through a cave, like then goes into the corner.
The perfect amount of bullets too. And then he's like, "Oh, good thing I have this M4 here," and just bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, it's
so good. It's an incredibly fun action scene. And then you're right. He gets his way out of the cave, and then he runs once again into Ruby Rose, who he asks loose ends. So obviously Santonio has been like, once he kills my sister, kill John Wick.
Yeah.
Like it's done. We don't need do it all.
And she's
I love
I mean, she's proving that she's like not great at her job.
No. And once again proves she's not so great at her job. By not killing John Wick this time. But I love that she goes to shoot him and he literally pulls his jacket up to like shield the bullets.
Yeah.
It's fucking cool. He mows down a few more people. That whole scene's incredible. And that's when we get the fist fight between Common, his character's name is Cassian and John Wick, which their fight leads to the Continental, and they both crash through the Continental glass doors to Italian Winston. I'd never learned his name, but Italian Winston is there. And they're once again reminded, do not conduct business on Continental grounds. Shall I suggest you both go to our bar for a drink?
Yeah.
And I love it. It's like, gin, right?
Yeah, and he's like, bourbon. Yeah.
It's so fucking good. I love it. I love it so much.
And I guess they
talk at the bar together.
That doesn't last long because we eventually get to what I would say is the highlight action sequence of the film when
is this after he's put?
So this is when the bounty is then put on John Wick.
$7 million contract on John Wick,
and you realize the amount of people that are just out and about in the city.
Well, this is the first time we see the control room too, and it's this real punk rock vibe, like lots of
in like 1950s
secretary get-ups, but like heavy punk, like almost emo style
Like they've all
makeup,
got like the
tattoos, piercings.
But they're all doing like the old school, like moving the wires.
I know, it's so much fun.
And then they do like even the computers, like the old school, like green lettering, black screen.
And that's sending the text message out to everyone.
Like, open contract, John Wick, 7 million, and then it gets sent to everybody. And then we just see this scene of like the assassins doing like normal things.
Yeah.
Some people are just like sitting there. There's the girl playing like the violin on the street corner, and they all just
John Wick, $7 million.
And then John Wick sort of like walks through the like subway, and it's just like everybody's like basically like looking around, being like,
so
do
good.
we all just
launch on him now?
And then there's like this montage action sequence of just everyone attempting to kill John Wick
versus New York, basically,
and just like like
that's where we get the pencil kill.
We get the pencil kill, which is really like
brutal.
Like
if you could imagine John Wick stabbing a pencil into 3 people's heads, that's exactly.
And it's
what
like
it is.
so. First of all, it's like there's the one where he puts it down and he pushes it into his ear.
Yeah.
Then there's the one where he like puts the pencil on the basically against the wall, and just pushes the guy's head into it. Then there's when he fights like the big oversized like sumo guy.
Yeah.
And like has to shoot him like 50 times so that he actually fucking shoots him in the head.
Down in the head too.
Then we get to like I guess like the culmination is where Common and John Wick, or Cassian and John Wick.
Yeah.
Like so first of all they're like
the fountain.
Yeah, so the fountain, which is really cool because the fountain obviously they see each other on either side. The fountain goes up. They just shoot through the water. They start
shooting their silenced pistols.
You see people then actually start run. Then they walk through the subway, and
which looks awesome. It's just this like really, it's like utopian white,
super clean, super like open,
very like lit up.
Where just everyone's just walking, and like Keanu Reeves is on one level, Common's on the other, and they're just like looking at each other and just man,
it's so good.
Just like shooting as. It's like discreetly as they can.
I love it.
Then leans
so over the top.
Leans into the train.
Oh my god!
Where they again like beat the shit out of each other, which I love. That then you can see the people watching it are all like
everyone's like to the other ends of the carriage, being like
and then as soon as like the train stops, they just
leave.
But like he stabs Cassian, but he stabs him in a way that he's like, if you remove that knife,
he's like, I've jammed the knife in your aorta.
Where he's like, where if you remove it. You die. And he walks out of the train and it's just like sitting there, and he just like has this like smirk on his face, like
I got bested,
fucking
John Wick beat me,
fucking John Wick.
But after all of this shit, John Wick has been fucked up yet again. Like he has been brutalized, and he runs up to a homeless man, hands him. And the guy's like spouting like what you would assume is like.
And you think like at first you're like, okay, this is actually just like a homeless man because he's sprouting all that like
conspiracy bullshit.
Yeah.
But he puts one of the gold tokens in, and he just immediately looks up and he's like, "Take me to the Bowery."
Yeah.
And then they hide.
John Wick puts like a sheet over him,
and the 2 sanitation guys are running after him. And then the homeless man, without even saying a word, like he's still shouting.
He says something.
Yeah. He's still like spouting his shit, and then he just goes bang, shoots those guys.
And then 2 other like homeless dudes then come and like take the bodies away.
And you're like, well, they got this whole fucking system down pat.
Yeah.
But then we go to the Bowery, led by the Bowery King, Lawrence Fishburne, who, if we're talking about. Yeah.
I'm just saying, great little Matrix reunion.
But if we're talking about someone who understands the level of camp you need in this film, Ian McShane's number 1. Lawrence Fishburne is a close number 2.
Yeah.
Because he is just so... I don't even know the... Like, he's like... It's not flamboyant, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of is, actually. It's just this very flamboyant... showy sort of like he is performing.
Yeah. It reminds me of have you seen The Big Hit?
Yes.
It reminds me of those performances where it's like
larger than life.
Yeah. I just remember where it was like
so good.
What's like, what are you gonna do about it? I'll bust some caps. Bust some caps. Get this man a gold star. Like it's all like and
it's very high.
It's very high. And then again it just all it does is also highlight how Ruby Rose just didn't understand the assignment of what she has to do.
Yeah, I keep forgetting she's in this movie sometimes. But John Wick basically has to plead with the Bowery King, to be like, and John Wick has hurt this man before, as we found out. Like John Wick thought he had killed the Bowery King, reveals a scar where he was like, you gave me the choice. Like if I could either pull out my gun and shoot you or keep my hand here and survive. And he's like, here I am.
Yeah.
But he's obviously got his whole network of homeless people and pigeons that he's like,
carrier pigeons.
Literally
legit carrier pigeons.
He's like, no one can sneak up on me. And now he realizes he has the power over John Wick, but he's also like, in a way, he's like, this man also let me live. So therefore I am going to help him.
Yeah.
And he's like, so what do you need? He's like, a gun. He's like, somebody please get this man a gun. It's the best fucking delivery of that
It's
line.
like, I love that.
I love
it's this weird thing of like, there's so much respect.
Yes.
Across this board. Like,
especially for John Wick.
Like as much as, someone like, it's like, yeah, you've beat the shit out of me, but you're John Wick. It's like, yes, you did this to me and I could kill you.
If I wanted to.
And then I think he mentions it in John Wick 3 when he's just like, yeah, I could take, like he's like, he could take the money.
Yes.
But he's also just like, it's not something that I particularly need as well.
To do.
But yeah, and I think adding Lawrence Fishburne was just like a really nice little.
It's this awesome touch.
Yeah.
So he gives him a gun and they lead him to where Santonio and Ruby Rose is at, which is this fucking insane house of mirrors.
Oh my God.
Mirrors and doors and lights. It is so confusing, but it is visually so aesthetically
And it's
pleasing.
like as soon as you see it, you just sort of think, oh, the potential of what you could do with action sequences. Because they do.
Because
they use it. Because obviously if you're looking at mirrors and there's like all those, halls of mirrors where you see one, you go, I don't actually know if that's you or that's your reflection.
And that's what
which
happens.
they utilize to it.
So
And there's
well.
one... Oh, I'm sure it
Is it the last shot where John Wick's running out?
In the door. Yeah,
that's the final shot.
That shot fucked me up.
It's so good. It reminds me of the scene from Contact where she's running towards the mirror.
And then you really, Oh, so good.
No, that's perfect. That it's the final shot. It's after he finally kills Ruby Rose. who that's the scene where I'm the most like, she gets stabbed and she goes like, and I was like, what are you doing, Ruby? Like, just chill out for a second.
Can't you just die already?
Just die normally. And then she does like, be seeing you, and he's just like, sure.
Like, sure, you dead, dumb bitch.
Like, you're dead, so you're not going to be seeing me. But the shootout and stuff in their hall and House of Mirrors is fucking cool. Like, it's fun. Like, it really just utilizes the fact that like people are shooting in the wrong place. Even at some points, John Wick shoots in the wrong place. San Antonio's giving he's taunting John Wick the whole time, and he manages to escape. Then we get that amazing shot. So it looks like John Wick's running towards the camera, walking through these doors. But then as the last mirror door opens, he runs past the camera. It is so well done.
Yeah, because he's walking towards the camera in like one direction.
Yes.
And it's like because he's walking into mirrors and they keep opening the doors. And then when the doors open, he then goes into another room of mirrors. And then when he's walking towards the final mirror, that mirror opens and he comes out. He comes out the other direction. It's a
trip.
It's like just one of the most. It's such a sexy shot. It's so good. I was like, oh, Chad Stahelski, bless you,
visually fucking cool director,
sexy bastard.
But then Wick finds out that Santonio is now back at the Continental, which is a safe haven because Santonio's like, I cannot be killed on Continental.
He's a little like, this is where you're like, you're a little bitch, Santonio.
He's bitch because
he's like, you've got,
he knows too.
Yeah, because he's like, you've gotten Wick to carry out your dirty work.
You tried to kill Wick.
You tried to kill him, and you've failed at like every possible
way times.
Now you've gone, I'm going to go to the Continental, and he eats his duck fat potatoes, which I'm like, I get it because,
and he like taunting Wick about it.
He's like, would you like to have?
Have you ever had
duck fat potatoes?
My favorite part of this scene though is Winston.
Yeah,
when because as San Antonio comes in, Winston's like, have dinner. But he's treating him like a.
But you're almost like, you can almost tell
like,
Winston.
I fucking hate you.
Yeah, like you can tell Winston being like, oh, this bitch,
you son of a fucking bitch.
Yeah.
But as John Wick's coming down the stairs, I just love Winston's just like, Jonathan, think about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Zero hesitation.
Bang.
Pulls the trigger. Kills San Antonio. And then the reaction is like, Jonathan, what have you done? Oh, it's so fucking cool. I fucking love Winston.
And it's because and it's almost like, because Winston's like, it's like one of those things where Winston's like, look, we all wanted this fucking guy to die.
Yeah, but it's like, but you've broken...
But you've done it on the one place where you know
sacred
that you
rules of the
this.
Continental. And because Wick responds, he's like, what have you done? He goes, finished it.
Yeah.
And just walks away. And you're like, fuck. So then you kind of go like, what happens now? We saw that Perkins was excommunicado and then killed. What happens next? So we go to the same place where Perkins was taken. Sorry, John Wick goes home initially to his burnt down house. Lance Reddick comes and he's like, come with me, please, Mr. Wick. And they go to the same place that Adriana Palicki was killed in the first film. And John Wick basically asks outright, he's like, why am I not dead yet? If I'm excommunicado, why am I not dead yet?
I love what Winston does in this shot.
Oh, it's so fucking good,
like,
man.
So it's in New York City.
Yes.
And it's a very, like, a lot of films have utilized this fountain.
Yes.
To me, it'll always be the fountain where George Clooney picked up Michelle Pfeiffer and bounced her around in One Fine Day.
Underrated rom-com.
Such a great movie. But yeah, it's like very open space in New York. It's like you've seen it in heaps of fucking movies. It's it's a place where like tourists go because of just what it is. And they're standing there together and there's just everyone's just walking
on through.
And and then John Wick asks him like, why am I not dead yet?
Like,
and Winston's
I do love the line where he's like, your life is now forfeit, John. I was like, fuck, that's a brutal
But he's
line.
like, essentially, he's like, I control everything.
Because of my doing. Like, you're not dead because of my doing.
And then he basically shows how much control he has and he just puts his, like, I think nods his head.
He nods his head and then his other guy is like,
and then
go now or whatever.
Every single person stops.
Oh, it's so fucking good.
Like, and they don't,
good.
Like, as in they stop and like they're in the direction they all just stop.
Stop.
And then it's like Winston gives them essentially like, you've got 1 hour.
Yeah.
So basically 1 hour to get whatever you need to get together to protect yourself because it is now fucking hunting season. And then he nods his head again and they all disperse.
And he's like, gives John a chance to run. So he gives him the hour and then he makes the phone call. John Wick, excommunicado, 1 hour. And then
John and his faithful dog, it's like this sort of like a bit of like a slow, like a fast walk.
Yeah.
And then you just see everybody around him all like looking at him.
Start getting the text message, John Wick,
they have an hour.
$14 million. And you're like, oh my God.
And he just starts to run off and then it ends.
It ends in sprint.
And you're like,
so good.
But at that point, you're like, we pretty much knew we were getting a 3.
I don't think it was announced as of yet.
I remember when it ended, everyone was like, we have to get a third one.
Yes, that's exactly what I was like.
Because it's like...
I don't think it was actually confirmed yet. I think then there was a similar thing. Opening weekend did fucking great.
Yeah.
Made shitloads of cash.
Wasn't this the case where like its opening weekend was pretty much like beat what it made domestically?
And on the initial run. On its first film. So, I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Because then we did get a John Wick 3.
Only 2 years later.
2019. They were really quick onto this one.
Yeah.
So 2019, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, which means prepare for war, which comes from a Latin phrase, if you want peace, prepare for war, which actually is said by Winston in this film. Critics score 89%, audience score 86. So this is the highest rated John Wick film critically and audience-wise on Rotten Tomatoes. It was 85...
89. So critically it's the same.
1%. Critically the same, 1% more for audiences. Right. John Wick is on the run after killing a member of the International Assassin's Guild, Centennial, and with a 14 million price tag on his head, he is the target of hitmen and women everywhere. And when they mean everywhere.
I like the inclusiveness that it's hitmen and women.
I will say John Wick does a reasonably good job of having a pretty diverse group of people around.
It's like the first movie was definitely like, for lack of a better word, a sausage fest.
Oh, 100%. It was totally.
Second, I mean, even though Adrian Palicki, but she was like the sole one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Second one, Ruby Rose
does a better job.
But there's Gianna, but and I guess it shows women as being like
totally.
Then this one we get, we get the fantastic addition that is Miss Halle Berry.
And her scene in the fucking film.
So really, I mean, essentially,
it's incredible.
She's actually in only like one scene.
It's just a big scene.
It's just a big
It's a big fucking scene.
But we get Halle Berry and we do get more like women, like as in being, but it's at least it sort of steps it up and being like, all right, we'll give a prominent role to a prominent actress and someone who we're like, again, we believe Halle Berry when we see her in action. You know, there are some people that you just like. Movie. I don't, you know, there are some people that you're like, I really don't see you being able to do that. But whereas Halle Berry, it's like the same thing with like same thing with like Charlize Theron in Atomic Blonde. You're like, yes, I believe you.
Like you are a hit woman.
Yeah,
you are fucking great at it too.
Yeah.
Best thing about this movie, just picks off where we started.
Literally,
picks off where we finished.
It's like movie. He's running through the streets and it's like the countdown. It's like 20 minutes.
It's about 20 minutes when we start. Yeah, 20 minutes into that hour, and we're getting like cutbacks to that control room where they're putting like John Wick as like the priority number one contract. 14 million. They're all over their speakers like excommunicado in effect 20 minutes. It's so fucking good. And Winston's sitting there having his drink, and Lance Reddick sort of asks him, you know, is John going to be okay? He's like, it's John Wick against every single assassin in New York City. I'd say the odds are about even. And I'm like, yes. Fuck yes, Ian McShane.
And then
fucking love you, dude.
When it sort of starts, you realize, everyone. But you're also like, but again, Keanu Reeves is pretty much like untouchable.
We get the TikTok man.
Which
Jason Mantzoukas.
I completely forgot he was in this movie.
Yeah, when he saw it,
I was like, "Fuck!" I heard his voice, and I was like, "Fucking Jason Mantzoukas."
TikTok, Mr. Wick.
TikTok.
He's very fun. I also love in this opening bit. That John Wick's trying to hail a cab, and the one cab that comes to pick him up is this significantly noticeable old timey cab, like 1960s cab. Which is just operating as a normal thing. He's like, take me to the Continental. And obviously there's a traffic jam. He's like, I don't have time for this. Hands him the coin and goes, make sure this dog gets to the Continental. And he runs away. And I was like,
it's really quite sweet.
It's quite, but I just love that little detail of like, there's like 4 cabs in that shot. And you're like, of course, that's the one that comes to pick Wick up.
But yeah, as he's like, yes, it means we take care of the dog. The dog goes to the Continental to his old buddy, Lance Reddick. But then it starts Keanu Reeves, John Wick on this action extravaganza. And it's sort of like the first fight scene was like, how do you possibly top this?
Oh, because God, it starts off with like, such a bang.
He beats a dude to death with a fucking book.
And a guy who is literally twice the size of him.
He's a giant man.
Person.
And like
the funny part about him as well, him coming in was like, it was before the hour was up, and like he's in the library because John goes to get this book, and it's got a cross in there, it's got some stuff, and it's got a photo of him and Bridget Moynihan.
Yeah,
and then the guy comes up and he's like, my time's not up, and he's like, here's a couple of minutes. Who's gonna notice? Who's gonna care? Yeah. And he tries to kill him now. And it's like, oh, you sneaky little devil.
One of the because this movie was rated MA here in Australia in its theatrical release.
Yes,
but on certain editions of Blu-ray as well.
Oh, was it? Okay, I thought it was 4K only. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's R
for one shot
for one particular shot. But even before that particular shot, this fight scene with the book, I'm like, this is pretty R-rated.
Oh God, yeah, because
it's not
brutal.
Because it's also like I completely forgot that. Yes, he's beating him with a book, but it's when he puts it in his mouth and his fucking jaw
and he breaks his jaw with it.
Yeah. And then it's like, but that doesn't kill him.
No,
he then puts the book like on the table, puts his head, and then just bang,
snaps his neck.
So you get that book.
Brutal.
So you get that book scene, and you think, this is the first fight.
This is the first kill of the movie.
Within like 3 minutes of this movie.
It does open
and
very strong.
The next scene I think is my
because he visits the doctor really quick after that,
to be like,
which is a brilliant scene of like, again, why people respect John Wick, because he's like, I've got 5 minutes,
and the doctor's like, oh, and like the doctor's almost like, oh, should I help you? And he's like, but you've got 5 minutes.
You got 5 minutes, and he's like, fine, come in. Stitches him up, and he's like, you're gonna have to shoot me. He's like, why? You stitched me up. He's like,
they'll never believe. They'll never believe that
I have to tell you where the painkillers are and when the time's up.
And he's like, he's like, they'll never believe that
I didn't tell you.
So, and he also, because he's stitching him up, and because the time runs out halfway through the stitch.
Yeah, John Wick has to finish it.
He has to finish the stitching himself. gets the
So
painkillers,
brutal.
and then he's like, "All right, John,
Shoot me.
but don't hit anything."
Bang! Like mid-sentence.
And then he's like, "Oh, you know what?" He's like, "One's not enough." And he's like, and then he's like, "Try not to hit my collarbone." And shoots, and he's like, "Oh."
It's almost comedic, like, but it works because it's just like, of course this needs to happen. But it's just after that first shot where he's just like, they're not going to believe just what.
And you look at it and you go, it's true, because they would probably look at it and go, that John Wick wouldn't do that. Whereas this, you're like, it's possible that
it could happen.
But then it leads into what I think is.
I'm in agreement. This whole set piece.
Like, it's
was it like 15 minutes long or something?
Like, it's the knife. It's so insane.
So even just before the knives, when he's running, he runs into this like, it's almost like a museum, I guess.
Yeah.
To an extent, but it's like in an old loft house. I love when he's putting together the single shot gun, when he has to construct the gun, and there's like, they're running up the stairs trying to bash through the door, and he's just calmly putting the gun together. And as soon as one guy bursts through the door, he gets the gun. We get like the Western music sting, and he's like, bang, headshots the guy. But then the knives. This scene is fucking ridiculous.
This is to me where it like really adopts that Korean cinema.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, it's just like the relentlessness of it.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
that's
and there's
fucking
no,
good
there's
word.
no,
Yeah.
and there's no editing.
I know what you mean. Like it feels very much like there are shots that stay for so long that have so much action in them that you're like, holy fuck. Especially the scenes when they're throwing the knives.
So they're throwing the knives at each other.
They have to smash all the glass to get the knives
which I
out
love
too.
that they get to a point where they've sort of like fought, and they're both kind of like they've both kind of stopped.
Yeah.
And because other people are dead, and they look at each other, and then they're like, and they both, so it's like kind of like they both look at what's behind each other, and then just go, oh, smash it, just grab it. And it's like, it's just there's one particular part where he's throwing the knives in just the most brutal, ferocious fashion.
Is that the one where it's a multiple knives going? Yeah. It's like the guy's already down, and he just goes 1, 2,
and then
three, like
picks up a dude, and the other guy tries to throw the knives, and he's holding the guy's back in front of him. Right. So the knives are hitting the guy in the back, and then every time he moves him, he picks it up again. He puts him back in there. Then he's like runs out of knives, so he grabs a knife out of one of like the dude's head. Yeah. Oh, there's the other shot where it goes right down in the dude's. The guy who has the tomahawk and throws like the tomahawk at him. Well, just the very end, because the guy's like half alive. But it's like, this is the scene where it had in the cinema version.
Yes.
Where he basically holds the knife and is pushing a guy's eye down onto it. And in the cinema, the eye was
cut off.
Was like
just before the eye.
So everyone, it's still like, you still hear it's
the squelching of the
And
eye.
by that point, we're like, we've already fucking seen all of this. Like, is this actually any worse?
Kind of was
pretty gross, but also,
do you know what it is? It's the not blood, but the liquid does come out. It was kind of gross.
But it's also like, to me, I'm like, we also got a very graphic shot like this in Brightburn.
That is very true.
And that movie was MA here, and that was a piece of glass
getting pulled out of the eye.
To me, I'm almost like, that's almost
worse than
because I'm like, because she's pulling it out.
And I feel like the context of that violence is worse than the context of the John Wick
fucking
violence.
Kid. And it's happening to this like very helpless woman.
God, that knife scene.
Whereas this is, but it's just the whole thing.
That whole scene's fantastic.
And then you realize
the stunt performers, not just in all the movies, but in this scene in particular, is fucking great.
But then you realize, okay, so we've had the book scene,
killing,
and we've had this knife scene, you're like, and there's still
surely we're done.
But you also go, and there's still like an hour and 50 minutes of this movie to go. And this movie, and I think as you sort of spoke about the fact that John Wick 4 is so long. Yeah. But you kind of joked that you're like, maybe it's 49 minutes of plot
story and 2 hours of action.
And John Wick 3 to me leans into they extend action sequences.
Totally.
And the Halle Berry scene is a good example of the fact that scene, it's a great fucking scene.
Yeah, totally.
But it's very long.
It's very, very long.
And it makes me sort of think, I wouldn't be surprised if John Wick 4 is just
the same thing. It's just excessive.
Extended
very extended and excessive. Because after that knife scene, we then go into the horse stables. So he gets chased into the horse stables.
That's right. That literally happens like
directly afterwards, which involves John Wick slapping the bum of a horse so it rear kicks. So it rear kicks one guy and you're like, holy shit. Then he does it again to the next guy, but twice because it hits him and then fucking launches him. Then he ropes the guy's neck and like drawn and quarters him down.
Smashes him into
that smash in was brutal because I'm like, that's a real dude. And I'm sure obviously there's like mats and stuff there, but I'm like, that didn't look comfortable.
And it's like one of those things where you go, it's surprising that you didn't hear about any stunt performers getting injured. Because you hear you hear about sets where some performers really bad unfortunately die.
Yeah, totally.
And there are some sequences where they say this is the stunt where I mean, like for start, like Tom Cruise fucking broke his fucking foot
ankle in Mission Impossible,
and you see that shot in the film, and you're like, it looks painful. And I think there was another one, Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea had one.
When
Deadpool
he
2
gets
had one.
pushed, like, and the water comes down, and the guy got hit against. Deadpool 2.
The Expendables has had one.
Yep.
So it's awful, and it happens. But yeah, it's one of those things where you're so shocked. But I also think, and this isn't saying that there's like negligence on those other sets, but having a set that is predominantly all stunt performers,
and the fact that it's everywhere. Like it's directed by a stunt performer. Yeah, so he was like he would know.
He's not trying to be like, oh no, we need the shot, we need to get the shot. He's like, no, fuck that, we can make it look cooler.
But also the horse scene was like the only time in watching the 3 films that I'm like, that looks like there's obviously CGI.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And it's like, of course the CGI. We're not gonna kick. But it's like pretty much the only time that it looks, and it looks real.
No, I know what you mean.
But you can see it, and it's like, because it is the way the
body flicks,
and it's because it's quite like, I know horses kick quite quickly. It's just very quick.
It's sudden. It's very. So
it's almost just like that's the only time that you're like, okay, there's the CGI trickery. Whereas most everything else looks incredibly practical.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
God, these moves are fantastic.
But then so not only do we get like the awesome shot of like, he got shot in the, we then get John Wick on a horse going down like the New York, where there's just like cabs and he's like, so then he gets to, on his horse, and he gets to like hop off of it and shoot.
That was so good when he like jumps to the side of the horse.
And it's what you would expect from someone in like on a motorbike or in a car doing it, but he's on a fucking horse.
Because not only, but we also get a motorbike scene later on. Like that's the thing. Like it's not just like everything that you like, oh, this would be cool if it was this. It's like, okay.
Oh, we're going to do that later on.
You're getting it.
Which makes me think, what the fuck are they going to do for Chapter 4?
I know. Like have we reached our limit? But it's the same deal with like fucking Tom Cruise in these Mission Impossible movies. Like what is he going to do next?
Have you watched the trailer for John Wick 4?
No. I refuse.
I'm trying to think. I feel like if I've seen it, I saw it very long ago, or I might have seen like the teaser.
Yeah.
I can't really think of seeing like a trailer with like shots that allude to anything. So I'm pretty sure I'm like,
pretty blind going into this.
Yeah.
After the horse chase, we go to a theater, which is a ballerina theater run by Angelica Houston.
This is where the ballerina for
spin-off movie will come
and it's a case of the character that Angelica Houston is watching initially is who Ana de Armas is playing. So they said that essentially Ana de Armas is like replacing that actress, and that person isn't seen enough to like for it to be like, oh, it's going to be a different, like, it's like no.
Right.
But yeah, that's essentially going to be who Ana de Armas is.
Yeah, cool.
From what I understand, because I read somewhere where it said she's replacing the actress that played her in this, and it's not even a case of this actress. It's not like a role. It's like literally she's on stage dancing. So it could be anybody.
All right,
but that makes sense. But the scene is more to introduce Angelica Houston, and that she's part of this world.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I guess she's the other sort of main female presence in this film.
Yes, totally. Yeah. And in a big way as well.
And she's like intimidating.
She's a fucking boss ass bitch is what she is.
Like even when it comes to her scene when she's like
her penance is paid.
It's like she still handles it pretty
fucking well. And then John Wick rocks up to this, to the theater and presents the cross and pretty much is like, this is like my passage out of here. And you find out John Wick has a history with this theater. Like he was trained by Angelica Houston's people. Behind the scenes, it's not just ballerinas, but there's fucking people doing wrestling and gun training and stuff.
It'll be very cool to see like the world building in the ballerina. Well, as long as like, obviously it's not Chad Stahelski directing it, but as long as the people that are writing the story, as long as there's some.
What's the say? The guy who wrote the script for 3 and 4 has written the script for.
Okay, well that's good. That
because there's a different writer from Derek Kolstad. It is Shay Hatton.
Right.
So yeah, there's at least some continuity.
Yeah.
But then in that sense, I guess John Wick uses this cross to get out and to get safe passage out. He has to have the cross branded on his back, so they brand the cross, which is fucking hectic. And he gets passage to Casablanca. So while he's getting passage to Casablanca, we are introduced to the Adjudicator. The Adjudicator is from the High Table, or someone who works under the High Table, who has come to the Continental, who under the illusion from Winston that she is there or they are there.
Yes, I was going to say.
No, that they are there to investigate the John Wick killing Santonio. It's more so Winston's getting investigated
because they're like, we are aware that you have helped this. Situation.
Like you didn't do enough to stop it.
Like when John Wick killed San Antonio, you could have killed John Wick
on the spot and
all
had
of this,
it sorted.
We all would have, because yes, you would have killed someone on continental ground, but because you run the Continental and it was in
retaliation to someone breaking the rules.
All of this could have just been called a day.
Not the case. The Adjudicator is here to fuck Winston's life up and abdicate him. He has 7 days to get his affairs in order. The Adjudicator also visits the Bowery King, Lawrence Fishburne, who is also abdicated and is given 7 days for helping John Wick.
But it's like and then how they said, you gave him, what was it that you gave him 7 bullets?
7 bullets.
So
we're going to 7 cuts.
Yeah.
And she uses Mark Dacascos.
Dacascos.
Who plays a character called Zero, who is so cool and unhinged in this movie.
Mark Dacascos is like a legend in the action
kung
field.
Fu cinema and stuff.
Like he's like the movies he's done, what he's like achieved on screen, what he does physically. He's like very, if he uses a stunt double, it's like very rare.
Totally, yeah.
For kids because I don't know if a lot of people have seen his films. The kids of the 90s, if you remember, he played one of the 2 Double Dragon.
Oh yes, he did
guys.
too. Yeah,
Scott Wolf and Mark Dacascos were somehow related.
It's the 90s, man. You do whatever the fuck you want.
So that's probably where he might be recognizable to some people.
Yes.
But obviously this is like 30 years later. So he's grown up.
He's grown up now.
Well, he was already grown up in that, but he's much older now. But I love that initially he seems so like
well, he's a sushi chef.
He seems so like unnerving. He seems so like, but then when
he's
got
the eyes.
Then when you realize he's like he's like a fanboy to John Wick. So it's almost just like, I'm so excited that it's like I'm so excited I get to kill you, John Wick. Like it's like
I am a huge fan.
Yeah, like it's like when he breaks that and he's like,
it's very funny.
It's like so
but it also again triples down on the fact that John Wick is respected, right?
Yeah.
So the Adjudicator uses Zero, Mark Dacascos' character, to inflict the cuts on. They ultimately hire them to inflict the punishments.
Yeah.
So John Wick makes it to Casablanca. He goes to the Casablancan equivalent of the Continental. He's offered amnesty there because he almost gets killed by someone who knows about the contract. But he's offered amnesty there by Halle Berry's character, Sophia, who you find out through a conversation has had relations with John in the past, and John just up and left. He booty called her.
Yeah.
And Sophia was not happy.
He was like, I'm just going to tap that and ghost ya.
But he asks a big favor and he's like, I need to go to the Elder. And you find out that the Elder succeeds or supersedes the High Table. Yeah. It is like the be all and end all of this hitman assassin world.
And, she reluctantly agrees because it's almost just like we're not even, how she says maybe like we're not even close to being even.
Oh God. Well, yeah, no, after that. So because they go to someone who may be able to give them directions to, and I can't remember who the actor is, but he was in Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
He's very noticeable for Game of Thrones.
But this is where we get probably the longest action.
This is the long action scene
of maybe the entire franchise.
Probably because it starts off with like, he's basically like, I know what John Wick's up to. He's like, why the fuck would I help you? And Sophia kind of has been like, no, make it about helping me. And he's like, well, I'm helping you, so I want something back.
And he's like,
I want the dog.
So she has 2 dogs,
German
two
shepherds.
Very intimidating
Beautiful
dogs.
German shepherd. Intimidating to those who don't like dogs. As dog lovers, I'm like, that's a fucking beautiful dog.
It's a beautiful dog.
It's a beautiful
but she's
dog.
also like trained them to be like,
Killers. Well, they wear body armor.
They wear body armor that she makes sure is fully stocked. So he's like, yeah, I want something from you. I want your dog.
And she's like,
no
like,
you can't have my dog. And he then decides to shoot the dog, which initially you're like,
oh my fucking
but
god,
then you realize
they've killed another dog.
Then you go, oh, the dog's wearing.
Well, even Halle Berry goes down. She's like, and then she's like, thank fuck.
So she sees that the bullet's in the Kevlar on the
Kevlar,
dog.
yeah.
And then it just starts this
hell
very extended action sequence where we've got
breaks loose.
John Wick shooting people. We've got Halle Berry shooting people,
and
we've got 2 dogs just
biting dicks off left, right, and center,
mauling people. And then also when they run out of guns, I'll just use
my God-given guns.
And it's like they have one big action sequence, and then it's like they move on to a second part of this like
it's a different
compound.
set. It's exactly because like they do this shootout initially at like the top of the tower,
and you sort of think, okay, this is going to be it.
No, they've got to escape now.
Yeah, so then they go to the next part, and it's just more guys people there coming.
But even with as long as it is, some of the stuff that is pulled off within a single shot.
Oh, it's incredible.
Because it'll be John Wick, combat, shoot. Camera moves around, following dog, dog bites dude's dick.
Then Halle Berry
comes through and we follow Halle Berry. It's just incredible. Like excessive, but incredible.
And then you and it's one of those, the whole trilogy is like when you realize how much choreography
has to
happen.
Think about the months of training
for this to be pulled off as smoothly as it is, and you realize what these actors
looks so
and you realize what these actors are going through. Like this this is a scene where you go, I don't ever see a shot that looks like it's not Keanu Reeves or it's not Halle Berry.
Not Halle Berry, yeah, totally.
They do everything here. You're like, is it you the entire time? Because fuck, you've done a lot.
But fucking killing it.
But then you think, well, David Leitch, when he did Atomic Blonde and that one take sequence of Charlize Theron
down the stairs, and
that's all her.
That's
and you sort of think
into a car,
and you're
like,
Halle Berry's pretty fucking she's ripped,
kills it. She absolutely
and it's like I'm so glad that like Catwoman didn't kill her career especially, yes, there was obviously a few films after that were like, but she's proving herself, and it's like this is the kind of film you watch where you go,
an absolute resurgence here now.
I'm so glad that I get to watch you in an action film because she dominates.
And some of the shit they fucking pull off in this scene is unreal.
Yeah,
but they escape and they follow the directions to the Elder. So Halle Berry drives John Wick out to the middle of the fucking desert.
Beautiful shots though.
Beautiful shots of the Moroccan desert.
Yeah.
And then drops him off and says, well, that's where you got to follow this star here. And he's like, are you going to give me water? And she's like, drinks the water, spits it back in and goes, there you go.
And just
now we're even.
And like mic drop and then
gone.
Exits the film.
So then John Wick has to make this fucking journey through the desert. Days and nights of walking, no water, in the hot sun. He collapses onto the sand, and when he wakes up, he is in I don't know what you would call it, like a sheet sort of temple, I guess. Or it's basically a camp that's been set up in which we see the Elder. And the Elder is aware of everything that has taken place. He's aware that the dog was killed and the car was stolen. He's aware.
And it's almost like when that happens, you just go, that's right. That's why this whole thing started, because someone stole his car and killed his dog in a film that came out 5 years ago at this point.
5 years before this one. So it's mental to think about. I don't know. Maybe. This doesn't matter. So
sorry for people that are only listening. It looks like the camera screen has turned off, but
we'll figure it out.
Figure it out.
And he basically goes, "I'm aware what you did to Gianna. I'm aware that you killed Santonio." But he's like, we're also aware of your past with the organization, I guess you could say. And if you re-pledge your fealty to us, we will let you back.
Yeah, essentially we'll just you need to clean slate.
Clean slate, you're back.
Yeah.
But we want you to cut off your ring finger and give us your wedding ring. And he has to cut off his own finger to do it, which is another brutal scene.
Would you ever be able to cut your own appendage off?
I feel like if I was in a situation where it was life or death, yeah. I feel like I could. Like 127 hours style, I wouldn't want it to be. I wouldn't want it to be that slow. But I think I could do it.
That's something I don't know if I could rewatch
that scene. Do you know what the worst part about that scene is? Is the musical stings. Is the strings.
That's just making me
icky.
It's because of
it's
the
icky. It's when he hits the tendons.
Gross.
It's gross.
Fuck.
So John Wick cuts his finger off and...
Oh, it's so fucking gross.
And then he's taken back to New York where he is now not really off the hook.
No, he's in a weird grey area because it's almost like, yes, he's been clean slated, but he's like, but it's almost like everybody in New York are like, but we don't know that.
We don't, but like there's also there's still a $14 million hit on him.
Which went up to $15 million.
Which goes up to 15, that's right. So he's at Grand Central Station. We get this really fucking cool shot of Mark Dacascos end up rocking up in the crowd. Then two of his henchmen rock up. Like it's like they come out of thin air. But then John Wick vanishes into thin air as well.
And then when he does that, and Mark Dacascos goes like, "Cool trick."
Cool, yeah, exactly. And then there's assassins just coming out of everywhere. But John Wick makes it to the Continental in time.
Oh, like puts his hand. Is that when he puts
his hand on the step? That's right. And then Winston's there. Winston's there like, no business.
He's on the Continental.
No business on Continental grounds. And that's when he's brought inside with Zero, with Mark Dacascos. And that's when they have the conversation. Like, I'm a huge fan. And it's so great. And I love that he just basically, John Wick says nothing back to him, which is fantastic. I love the line he says, "We're both masters of death." This movie has so many fucking just cool lines of dialogue. But Winston then invites John into his massive glass room. And the reason they have a glass room is like, we have this glass room so you can see that we don't have a gun under the desk ready to shoot you.
And it's also like, yes, that's one reason, but we know that you want just a really cool room to create a fucking cool action scene. And you know what? It's exactly what happens. I love that we get to the end of the film where it's like Mark Dacascos, his two little like henchmen, and then Winston, John Wick, and Lance Reddick are all basically like, we've all just got to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
Because the adjudicator.
Well, that's it. That's the conversation they have. Is like Winston's like, I'm not stepping down, and John Wick's like, I'm not killing you.
Yeah.
So I guess this means war.
Yeah.
And so the adjudicator makes a phone call and deconsecrates the Continental because they have not followed, they have not complied to the orders.
Now that's deconsecrated.
Business can be conducted on the grounds.
We can now kill people on ground, which then goes, oh, great. Now that we're in this awesome glass room, let's beat the shit out of each other.
The fact that they're just in the Continental, in the whole hotel.
Yeah.
So the adjudicator makes a phone call and two literal busloads of soldiers rock up. Winston and Lance Reddick, whose name is Sharon, and John Wick go down into their armory and prepare. It's just the three of them preparing.
I love that.
Winston's just like, I'm not fucking fighting.
I love that, Winston sits back.
Has a whiskey.
The dog sits on the couch with him and he just sips a whiskey the entire, like the rest
whole
of the
shootout.
Movie. And every time John Wick and Sharon come back in to like reload, he's just like,
how's it going out there?
And he's almost just like, well, where are we at? So
are they all dead yet?
It's so great.
And Winston says to John Wick, he's like, do what you do best. And he's like, what's that? He's like, hunt. And I was like, and that's when he says the Parabellum line.
But I love that also when the adjudicator rings him.
Oh my God.
And they start sort of having their big spiel and he just goes, I was like, oh, I think that was the most I laughed.
I know you want to bring this up. Asia Kate Dillon.
Is it Asia Kate Dillon?
I believe it's Asia Kate Dillon.
it was not, so it's not the same thing as like Ruby Rose, but their performance goes back and forth for me in terms of sometimes it's on the right nose of being camp and quite having like that dominance. But then other times it just doesn't, it feels like a little
too much.
Like a youth trying to be bigger.
Right.
That's what it comes across to me.
I'm the same. I thought they were up and down.
Yeah.
But when it was good, it was great.
Yeah, I love their character.
Yeah. The character's amazing.
And when they're delivering everything the way that it's like hitting the right notes, I'm like, I'm
totally.
But then other times it just,
there was just times where it didn't hit as well. But yeah, the phone's getting hung up. The thing that's insane about this shootout is all the lights are turned off, so it's all smoke and flashbangs and torches. But the armor on these bad guys is so heavy that John Wick has to like shoot them 5 times to stop them from moving, and then move their visors and shoot them in the eyes. Like, it's a hectic scene. And then Sean's there, they've shotguns, and it's a brutal shootout, and it is so much fun, insanely fun. Then it leads to the glass room. Now, the fun thing about this glass room is that the final 2 guys, so John Wick fights 2 guys in the room, kills them. Mark Dacascos Zero is like on a level above watching and like giving claps and stuff. He's like, this is so much fun. The 2 final guys who come out, they may look familiar to people who are big fans of action films because they were lead characters in Gareth Evans' The Raid. And they both became very popular because The Raid is a very similar film in which the fight choreography and the action choreography is mental. Their fight scene is fucking great because it's a similar thing where they're like, we get to fight John Wick. Like, this is great.
And they sort of basically allude to the fact that they're like, we're fans too.
100%.
Because it's like there's times when they very easily could kill John Wick. And they kind of like almost like put their weapons down and then just like, oh, come on, like let's
totally.
Like let's
They're
go.
having fun with
like,
it.
because they're just like, we want to be the guys that kill John Wick.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do it
cheaply.
too easy.
Cheaply. Yeah. But John Wick does end up killing them both.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant because there's like another form of respect of the way they sign off the fight with each other. Then we get the showdown between Wick and Zero.
Yeah.
Which is like a mixture of hand-to-hand combat and sword fighting. And the sword fighting is
big ass sword fighting.
Fucking fun.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And like, it's the same to like, they're breaking so much glass, but Mark Dacascos is being like, this is fun. Like, I'm having I get it. Like, I get John Wick.
Like this weird, like fetish.
A little bit,
to it.
Like, it's admiration. It's literally admiration.
Yeah, I guess it's like someone you just feel like, oh God, I can't wait for you to slap me.
No, exactly right. He's like, because I've heard you slap so good. Like that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's exactly what it is.
Oh, you slap so good. I want you to slap me so hard.
Their fight is brilliant. Like, the choreography of the fight's great, but the fact that these 2 are both doing all their own stunts in the scene, and they're playing off each other so well is so damn exciting. Then it leads to John Wick's sword gets like chopped down, and then he uses it to stab Mark Dacascos right in the gut.
It's almost like
it's a bit of an upsetting because he's upset he's dying, but he's also like, it was John Wick who killed me.
It's like
He's like, I
died at the hands of John Wick.
But he's also in a bit of denial, and he's like, I'm just catching my breath, John. Like, I'll be back soon.
I'll be back soon. You're like, yeah, okay.
Then
you're like, okay, Ruby Rose.
Once Zero is killed, the adjudicator rings Winston again and asks for a parlay.
Yeah. Yeah, because they've kind of then been like, all right, John Wick really is killing everybody. Yeah. And we know that. Like, the adjudicator's like, I'm probably next.
Yes.
And I'd like to avoid that.
Let's chill out
So parlay.
Let's take a little
very
sec.
nice, like, pirate.
Yes.
Pirate kind of
Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
So they take it to the roof, and all the destruction's been done, and the adjudicator's like, we will reconsecrate the Continental.
Like, we fucked up.
We fucked up. We will reconsecrate. But you know what you have to do.
You have to
and Winston's like,
okay,
I know what I have to do.
Yep.
And he shoots John Wick twice. Third time, hits him off the building.
So when he got shot,
shocked the shit out.
Well, it shocked me when he got shot, but I was like, all right, I'm also expecting like, okay, this will be them. Like, they're all in on it. It was when he fell off the
building and goes bang, boom, bop, bang.
Yeah. Bing bang boom. The bear does cocaine.
The bear does cocaine.
Like when he hits like a fire escape, and then when that happened, I was like, because you go, I know that John Wick can survive a lot, but he just got shot twice. Fell from.
In fairness, he got shot in his body armor, so that's okay. But like still,
that height in what does the height, regardless of hitting anything, that's a big fall.
That's a big fucking
when you
fall.
hit like a fire escape and a ledge, and it throws your body from one end to the other. I'm like, that's gonna hurt. So
it's gonna be fucking painful.
I was like, I don't know. Like, is this how John Wick 3 ends?
Is this how John Wick ends?
Yeah.
Like, is this?
And then we get, the dog walking. And as soon as the dog started leaving the hotel, I was like,
okay.
This is what happened.
And then the adjudicator goes, John Wick's body's not there anymore.
And Winston is kind of like, he's like, oh.
Interesting.
And with the educator.
Who would have thought?
But then the adjudicator's like, you need to fix this shit.
Confirm that John Wick is fucking
because
dead.
the last thing we need is John Wick coming back for all of us.
Yeah.
But Winston's also like, he's not going to come for me.
He's like, yeah.
You're worried for you.
And then Sean comes up and he's like, well played, sir. And I was like, fucking brilliant.
So, I guess my assumption for John Wick 4 is that Winston and Sharon and Lawrence Fishburne, because he's in it as well.
Well, yes, because we find out then Lawrence the TikTok man picks up John Wick and
Jason
takes him
Mantzoukas comes all the way back from like 2 hours ago, and we're like, that's right,
you're in this movie. And he brings him to Lawrence Fishburne in his new Bowery.
And also Lawrence Fishburne with 7 cuts.
Well, who survives?
Who survives.
When he gets cut, that last cut makes it seem like
he's
killed
dead,
him.
yeah.
Pardon me. So, and he goes, are you pissed off, John?
Like, yeah,
I'm pissed off. And he gives him the finger. And he's like, well, I guess we better get to work.
And
cut to
credits. And now, 4 years later,
yes,
we
COVID
have John Wick Chapter 4, which, I assume is going to be John Wick, and he's going to have his little harem of helpers this time.
Yeah, which is exciting. Which seems like another globetrotting adventure, I'm assuming. The only 2 casting decisions, additionally, that I'm fully aware of is Bill Skarsgård and Scott Adkins, who I'm assuming by their character posters are bad guys.
And I keep hearing everyone talk about the fact that Scott Adkins doesn't look like Scott Adkins.
Yes,
in it. So he's in like
his character poster, he's in like fat suit prosthetics.
Yes.
He looks like a big like kingpin mafia sort of guy, which is hilarious.
I know that Rina Sawayama, I think that's how you pronounce her name, Sawayama, who is a Japanese singer, making her feature film debut. I know that she's in it. I don't know what the role is. I don't know if she's if she's a good guy, if she's a bad guy. I don't know, but she's the only other person.
This movie
I'm the same. I don't know what the plot
which
is.
Makes me excited.
But it's like if it's being helmed by Chad Stahelski, which I assume it is, then we're in good hands.
We're in good.
We've just got to figure out if it's justified or not.
If it's justified or not. So March 23rd in Australia. I think there are preview screenings on the 22nd. You can see it a day early.
We will find out soon.
Very, very soon. But I'm very excited for it. But that was John Wick Chapter 1s, 2, and 3s, which is very exciting. So thank you all for listening to this long recap. Well, but it was a fun recap.
But also, if we're talking about John Wick movies, why shouldn't we extend the running time?
With our extended dialogue scenes.
Yeah.
Our action is with our words. Why don't we quickly tease by telling what we're doing on the April episode of Monthly Movie Marathon. Why don't you take this one away, Pete? Do you remember what we're doing? We are doing a horror film.
Yeah. It was so in April, there is another horror sequel. It's like another horror sequel coming our way.
It's a sequel franchise.
I can't believe I didn't think of franchise. So this one I am hoping a lot of people are excited for. It was another film that was meant to be an HBO Max only. But thank God HBO Max have come to their senses and been like, hey,
let's release
stuff
in the cinemas.
Because it's like, regardless if the film doesn't maybe have a great opening weekend, people are still seeing your film and talking about it more than what it would be
just on HBO.
So like, let's just talk about I completely forgot
Yes.
that Amazon have bought MGM.
Yes, right? Yeah.
So that means Creed 3
would have gone to
could have
Amazon.
gone to, and then you know what? It could have been.
I think that one was different because Warner Brothers owned the theatrical rights. But
it was one of those things where it's possible that Creed 3 could have gone to streaming.
Yep,
and
totally.
yes, Amazon could go, it had the greatest opening streaming. But we would forget about that movie.
Absolutely.
So I'm very glad that they were like, no, you know what? Let's release that in cinemas.
Yes.
And I'm hoping it's going to be the same for Evil Dead Rise.
Yes.
Which is the fifth film in the Evil Dead series. So we had obviously Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead Army of Darkness, which were the Bruce Campbell-led
Sam Raimi directed trilogy.
Evil Dead films. Then in 2013, we had the fucking
unreal
great Evil Dead movie, which sort of was like kind of a reboot, but also kind of a sequel at the same time. Fede Alvarez directed the Fede Alvarez.
I can't remember.
Fucking incredible
unreal
film.
Movie.
Another film that in Australia wasn't meant to get a cinema release.
Yep.
But because it went gangbusters in the US, they were like,
let's
hey,
get some cash.
And let's do that. So now we're seeing Evil Dead Rise, which is not really, from what we understand, not really related
not
to
really connected
these
to
connected films, but is in the
Evil
lore.
Dead lore, with it. So
we're excited that we can see it.
Yes, absolutely. And
because we love horror films.
And we're excited to go back and rewatch
Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead Army of Darkness, and the 2013 Evil Dead.
I'm pretty fucking keen because I haven't watched Army of Darkness in a long time.
Or
Evil Dead 2 actually.
Yeah, I haven't really watched any of them in a very long time. So
very excited.
Very excited. But that is what we'll be doing in April.
Yes, and that movie comes out April 21st, so that'll be coming out mid-April. That episode. So be on the lookout for that. Watch those movies in the lead up to that. But until then, where can everyone find you? If they miss Peter Gray in the gap between this episode and the next, where can they find you?
Where can they find me? Apart from Street Corners, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at RatedPDG, and on Rotten Tomatoes. My reviews go up. And mainly, I'm writing for the AU Review. Nicholas, where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at nicksflicksfix.
I am on Letterboxd too. I've really.
Are you now?
Yeah, I've got to properly do it though.
Once you're in, you're in. It's a cult.
Yeah,
you'll love it. You're gonna love it.
Sometimes I'm like, I'm already like writing for enough things.
Oh, I don't put full reviews on Letterboxd. I just use it to keep track of everything I watch.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
And you can find me on NovaStream Network. All my interviews are there, plus any fun little reviews I do for them as well. But until next month, bye! Wow, it's very manly bye. It's very John Wick bye.